Welcome back. It's Beyond the Box Score. I'm Dan Schneider. That's Jacob Gibbs. And we have officially reached playoff week for your fantasy football squads. Week 14 was a snooze fest in a lot of my leagues. Some of the most interesting scenarios I saw play out, Jacob, were some of the top scoring teams in my league from a point standpoint had some of the worst weeks in week 14. So I think the buys played a role in that, some of the higher scoring teams. But we're through the buys now. We're into the playoffs. I'm very excited to talk about full slate rosters with you. Just really excited about these playoff matchups we have ahead and some of the players who will lead us there and take us there. Some late season breakouts. The comment section is already ripping and roaring. I'm never late, just early, or never wrong, just early, I should say. And that's what we'll be talking about today with RJ Harvey, one of our preseason boys who may end up helping you win your league, like after considering him a bust. So I'm excited to talk about a lot of players today. Jacob, how are you doing?
I'm great, man. Yeah. You say, no, we're through bye season, but we're not through first round bye of the fantasy playoff season. That's where I'm at, baby. We've officially arrived at, complain about our awful luck. I feel like in every league chat, there's one person who's pointing out that they should have had a better year, but they didn't or whatever. They had so many points scored against them. I was actually third in points. Somehow I'm eighth. Like, sorry. Like, I don't know what you want us to do. It's fantasy football.
Well, that happened in my home league too. One thing you can do is apex scoring. I really am a strong believer in that. You have to use apex scoring.
Yeah, but I mean, like that, it's just like you're gonna be able to find a bad beat probably if you're concerned with that aspect of it. Like even in leagues with median scoring, I've got teams where just barely missed out. I missed out on 2 first round buys this week 14 one by 5 points, one by half of a point, and so it's like that's irritating. But I also like secured a first round buy by 3 points, and the only reason I secured that first round buy was because my brother started Josh Downs. I didn't want to start Josh Downs. We were kind of desperate at receiver, this third receiver spot. I look at the lineup Sunday at, 30 minutes after game start. I'm like, why is Josh Downs in, bro? And he's like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? He's like, yeah, I don't remember doing that. And who I was going to start got 0 points. Romeo Dobbs. Like, wow. So yeah, it ended up.
So it was one of those you checked and it was too late to change.
The only reason we secured the first round buy was complete randomness. Like we accidentally had a guy in that nobody knows how he got in there. And I just thought that was
this just reminds, like, everything you're talking about just reminds me of like playing poker. Everyone always remembers the bad beats, but no one remembers when you bad beat the other player. Like no one's telling stories about that, and that happens to all of us.
Yeah, but yeah, we've got a lot to talk about today. RJ Harvey league winning season is hilarious. What a crazy year it's been. Where we thought maybe it was going to be Travion Henderson, snip, snap all over the place, and actually maybe it's Harvey shooting up to be our league winning rookie running back for 2025. He is RB9, running back 9 in expected fantasy points per game over the past month. That's per the Fantasy Points data suite. Check out their bell cow report. You can find that the usage has been pretty good for Harvey. So that's 3 games for him, 1 before the bye, 2 after. The 2 after the bye have been really good. I broke this down on Monday's recap with Adam Mazer. He's got at least, I think, 4 red zone carries in each of those games, a lot of carries from inside the 10. We saw the route rate and the targets spike this past week, higher than it's been all year. And then he also looked really good. I really like the film. You can find a film cut up of every RJ Harvey touch on my Twitter if you're interested in that. Raiders defense, of course, just the week prior, they made Kamane Vidal look like one of the best running backs in the league. But it was, I mean, if you watch it, like Harvey's doing a lot of it. I thought there was a better effort from the Raiders defense this game against Denver. And I thought Harvey just played really, really well, created a lot of yards on his own.
A lot of yards after contact too. Definitely looked the most comfortable I've seen him. And that's just like more reps, more time behind that blocking scheme could lead to bigger performances. We're starting to see that at this point. Like we went over the landscape last week, Jacob. You can make a case that he should squarely be like in your maybe top 11, 10 range for running back as we move forward, looking at the matchups, obviously as a big factor there, but there's not too many backs I feel more confident in moving forward.
We're going to get into rest of season rankings at RB and at wide receiver today. And Harvey, if you are watching on YouTube, one of the biggest risers for me as I dug into the rest of season outlook for these running backs. It's still a little bit, it makes me a little bit nervous with Harvey, like what we're going to get from this offense week to week. But I do feel like, Sean Payton is kind of narrowed his focus on like what works for this offense. And I was really encouraged to see that Harvey continues to be a big part of that. The other guys are just kind of mixing in as relief options, whereas like Harvey's the guy in the red zone. Harvey's getting more and more passing work. We're dialing in on Cortland Sutton as the clear wide receiver one. I feel all right about it, even though this offense, at large, it's hard to feel confident, right? Denver's just been shaky all year. The quarterback play can be kind of erratic week to week. And then you're talking about a rookie running back here who is, there have been questionable vision reps from him all year long. There have been lots of plays where he wants to bounce outside and stuff like that. And that can lead to, some of these inconsistencies and stuff. But I feel pretty good about him, to your point. I think there's enough guys that I feel better about that he's not quite in that running back 11 range, but we'll get to that when we get to
Let me ask you this question about Harvey moving forward, since you've pretty much like cut up and watched every single ounce of his tape this year. Do you feel like the Broncos at all from a schematic standpoint are starting to do things that fit his skill set better, or are they just running their scheme and he's just a little bit more comfortable behind it?
Yeah, it was a little bit better this past week.
Okay.
I thought that they did a little bit more to attack the outside, but still it hasn't quite been what I was expecting. And I liked the receiving work too, the intentional like receiving touches for him. Like his first touch, if you watch that cut up, is actually called a run. He actually did, if it would have been a target, that would have been his 7 targets on the day, where it's a pass just backwards. But they were doing a lot to get him out in space, at least more than they have been. So I feel a little bit better about it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to trust that there's predictability with this, because I just, you know what I mean? Like, it's just been a weird year from Peyton, and he's kind of been all over the place. But it feels better than it has been. So yeah. All right. I want to talk about Brian Thomas Jr. Nobody wants to. I put them through that last week on the Thursday episode with Ryan Heath, and everybody hated it. And you know what? We're going to do it again, because I think it's worth our time. And I think that Brian Thomas Jr. could be somebody that you can sneak into your lineup in like 3 receiver leagues, and feel all right about it. So you're still probably like starting Ladd McConkey, right? Unless you're really, really stacked at wide receiver. And if you look at the per route data for these two on the year, it's nearly identical. So this is what I've got on the screen is year 2 wide receiver per route rates in terms of fantasy points per route run, targets per route run, first downs per route run, and yards per route run. And you see Brian Thomas Jr. and Ladd McConkey seriously like neck and neck, with BTJ slightly ahead. But we keep starting Ladd. He has more touchdowns. But I think a lot of his value was like at a different part of the season. Now the Chargers are kind of like all focused on the running backs, and have more matchups where I think that's kind of what we're going to see, because the offensive line is in trouble here. And Herbert's, obviously we've seen him get banged up at times this year. Whereas you look at Jacksonville and they're throwing down the field. They're being aggressive with their passing game. It feels like they're kind of hitting their stride there a little bit. And if this is the full season data, which includes the beginning of the season where it was a complete mess for the Jaguars and for BTJ in particular. If you look at, over the like past 2 months or so, BTJ is like clearly ahead of McConkey, and is in general like not in that bad of a spot in terms of fantasy receivers. It hasn't been great, but he has 80 or more receiving yards in 3 of his past 6 games. Like I think they've kind of cut out a lot of the stuff that they were trying to get on his play early in the season that wasn't working. They've got Jacoby Myers to do that now, fill the role that Travis Hunter was kind of stepping into. They feel good about what Jacoby's been able to do for them over the middle of the field. They got Brenton Strange back to do that as well. And so now we've got BTJ just kind of locked in as this downfield threat. And we know that he can absolutely dominate in that type of a role. And Trevor Lawrence has been really good throwing down the field. We've hit on that several times over the past couple of months. I think this best game was probably one of his best games, if not maybe his best game on film of the year and of his entire career for Trevor Lawrence. So I think there's reasons to be optimistic about Liam Cohen and Lawrence and everything. And BTJ is part of that, even though it's been frustrating this year.
I think I stand pretty strongly with that. We did a whole breakdown of the film of the Jaguars passing game last week, took a major step forward. I feel like maybe it's just a combination of one, Lawrence understanding what Cohen wants to do schematically better, and Cohen understanding what Lawrence does well better from that intermediate vertical standpoint we talked about it last week. And then, like you said, like this week was even better. I watched that tape. I thought Lawrence was even more comfortable. and they were looking even more explosive in the passing game. Maybe it's matchups, but I'm pretty confident. Like, we talk a lot in fantasy, Jacob, about, all right, if you're playing this game out, you want to buy the players in the offenses that we feel confident about that can produce on a weekly basis. And I think we see that play out even more toward the end of the year as it gets colder and some of these middling passing games just totally collapse. This is an offensive game from a passing standpoint that's on the rise. And I don't know how many teams do you feel more confident in from a passing standpoint right now than Jacksonville, as weird as that may sound. What'd you say?
Not that many. Wide receiver is really gross right now. Like you're saying, like you want confidence. And it's like, I was just thinking, how many wide receivers are there that you actually feel that way? One of them is Jacoby Myers, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so people are asking the chat, like it's Jacoby rest of season over Thomas, right?
Yes.
Yes, for sure. We're going to get to the wide receiver
But it can
rankings.
be both is what we're kind of getting on.
It could be, right? Like, yeah. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, we hit on. He's third in the league, third among quarterbacks in catchable air yards per game over the past 2 months. He's really been like facilitating decent offense. Like it's
better than decent.
A lot of it's Liam Cohen, but he's doing it. I think so. We could have 2 pass catchers from this offense.
Yeah, it's not even, it's like when you just, contextually speaking, it's better than decent. There's just not a lot of passing games that are finding any success around the NFL. And that's why it stands out so much to me. It is a little frustrating just looking at the whole landscape, Jacob, though, because it does feel a lot like if Travis Hunter didn't get hurt, that he would be doing what Myers is doing, but a lot better because he's a more explosive player and a better player overall. So it's a little frustrating because that was one of our favorite players preseason. But as it stands today, like I feel a lot of confidence starting Myers every week. And I'm starting to get on your page with Thomas Jr. because I can see him potentially having 1 or 2 explosive plays in the fantasy playoffs, and that's basically all he needs.
Yep. Alrighty. Speaking of competent offenses, let's talk about Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns. Speaking of catchable air yards, third among I haven't looked at the Monday Night quarterbacks, but just watching that game, I do not think they got there. Third among quarterbacks in week 14 in catchable air yards is Shedeur Sanders, and Harold Fannin being the biggest beneficiary. We see Fannin, I think his season high, career high was like 78, 80 receiving yards, something like that. Pushed all the way up to 114 or something this past week. I've got a bunch of Fannin stats for you. My favorite, man, is this list right here I'm about to put on the screen. So, percentage of team receiving yards in games played. Trey McBride and Brock Bowers at the top, 27.4% and 27.2% for those two. Harold Fannin is next at 24.6%, just ahead of Tucker Kraft and George Kittle in the percentage of team receiving yards in games played. If you look at the percentage of team receiving yards while on the field, the only player above him at tight end is Dalton Kincaid, who, has a very specific role where when he's out there, it's to run routes and get targets. Otherwise, he's just pretty much not out there. He only plays about half the snaps. Among full-time tight ends, which is what Fannin is at this point, he's at the top in the percentage of team receiving yards when on the field. 31% for him, 30% for Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. And then, of course, beyond the box score, sickos love the rest of this list. Look at Gunnar Helm up here, 28% tied with George Kittle. Oronde Gadsden, Britton Strange up here, tied with these guys, tied with Tucker Kraft. Colson Loveland, 27%. What a list. What a list.
Yeah, that seems to be fading for Gadsden, sadly.
It was a really bad matchup. I detailed that on Thursday with Ryan. I think that it could be better going forward. But yeah, I mean, it hasn't been as good as it.
Hipkins got hurt, though. It just seems like that offense might be destroyed from a passing standpoint. I don't know, though.
Anyway, let's focus on Fannin. Let's have some fun.
Focus on good things.
Harold Fannin, tight end 14 in catchable expected fantasy points. Catchable expected fantasy points per game over the past 2 months. That's per the Fantasy Points Data Suites model. Tight end 14 over the past 2 months. Tight end 8 over the past month in catchable XFP. On the year, Harold Fannin has a higher yard per route run rate than Trey McBride.
Wow.
Yep. As a Cleveland Brown, as a 21-year-old rookie, one of the youngest players in the league, has a higher yard per route run rate than Trey McBride. 153 yards created after initial contact as a receiver is where Harold Fannin is at. 153 only is behind Trey McBride on the year. Trey McBride is averaging 1.8 yards after contact per reception. Fannin is at 2.6. That trails only Tucker Kraft and Darnell Washington. This guy's a freaking beast with the ball in his hands and he can win routes.
Yep.
And he can win at the catch point, as we saw this past week on that touchdown. By the way, yards after contact per reception, Colson Loveland ahead of Tyler Warren.
Let's
I
go.
just found that interesting because
win.
I've been told that Colson Loveland was soft. Ben Johnson does not agree. I just thought that was pretty interesting. So that's what I've got on Fannin. I think it couldn't be more exciting from a long-term perspective. Yeah. And then if the Shedeur stuff is at all repeatable, probably not, is my guess. I mean, it was against the Titans, but I haven't got to dig into his film fully, but like every time he popped up on red zone, I was like, holy crap, that was actually a really good play. That was a really good throw from Shedeur. So I'm excited to get into that more, but man, I'm feeling so freaking good about Fannin.
It's hard not to feel good about Fannin because essentially Shedeur's come in and locked onto him just from all the stats you just broke down. It's pretty clear and obvious, and we already knew what kind of player he could be. And I think it was weird because coming into the NFL, it felt like people viewed him as like some kind of like older prospect almost in the way they talked about him, just because it was he runs with such an unconventional way and his route running is so different. But I think that helps him in a lot of ways. And after the catch, he's just such an absolute beast. I would say from all the tight ends we've watched this year, and it is a pretty exciting class between Warren, Fannin, and Loveland, Fannin is the one that excites me the most after the catch and feels like the biggest playmaker potentially out of this group. So someone who should be shooting up your dynasty rankings. And I think rest of season, how many tight ends do you feel confident in starting over Fannin?
Yeah, I didn't get to rest season tight end rankings, but it's not going to be very many. He's probably in that tight end 6 to 9 range, if I had to guess.
Yeah, you might even like a player like Warren. I'd rather have Fannin than Warren rest of season personally. I mean,
wild stuff, but honestly, probably not that far off.
Well, who knows what's going to happen with this Phil Rivers offense? This is the most incredible news I've seen in like 5 years of doing this. It's just 44 years old, a grandfather, and he's coming back to play potentially this week for the Colts. Like if they get to the point where Riley Leonard can't play this week and he's week to week, I would imagine that they feel more confident putting Rivers out there than Brett Rippon, because I would. I don't care if he knows the offense. I don't care how many reps he's had. Brett Rippon cannot move the football at all. So we'll see what happens there. But
how do you think the age factors in here, where you got Warren is like what, the age of Rivers, like third son or whatever, you know? Like, do you think that makes him more relatable, that he's like spending a lot of time with that age group? Or
I want someone in the chat to tell us if they've ever heard before this of a grandfather playing in the NFL, because that was the best thing that I've seen yesterday. All right, we're going to take a quick break and get back into this.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on accurate expiration dates,
that is a rookie mistake,
or people appreciating your fashion sense,
Jim, the crowd is not on board here.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus.
Glad we wear our good jerseys.
Yeah.
Alrighty, man. People are not happy with the Brian Thomas Jr. talk or the Cleveland Browns talk, grossing them out. So I say, let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings and JJ McCarthy. You watched them on film. Let's take this even further. What'd you think? Finally got a bounce back game from JJM, right?
Finally got a bounce back game from JJM for the offense. Obviously not for Justin Jefferson. So let's get into all of that and why it happened. I want to first caveat by saying I don't exactly know where the Washington Commanders defense is at right now. So for example, the touchdown pass to Oliver, which was, I think, his second touchdown of the game, it was just purely a busted coverage by the Commanders. And I think overall on the day, Minnesota just dominated and owned the line of scrimmage from a run standpoint. And they do really look like a better team running the football when Mason is in the game. But Aaron Jones found his success running the football as well. With that said, I thought the Vikings did a good job of kind of spreading the defense out, going to empty at times, using pre-snap motion, and giving JJ McCarthy a lot of easy solutions pre-snap. And that was what it was, a lot of quick game. But there were still so many opportunities that JJM just passed up or just took a little bit longer to see and then missed. I had early in the game a whole shot opportunity to Justin Jefferson that he just didn't throw, didn't see. The first time he threw anything but quick game was in the middle of the second quarter, a design intermediate to Addison. He was wide open and JJ sailed it, but he did start to look better in the second half. They started to give him more opportunities, use the second half as a way to, in a lot of ways, get him going And the best thing that he did was anticipation throws on the outs for JJ, and that was mostly to Addison. The only time they were really able to get Jefferson the football was on either design screens and bubble screens, and then a really nice design on a 3rd and 12 that I talked about on Twitter a little bit earlier. That was just really good stuff from Kevin O'Connell to get JJ, Justin Jefferson in motion, and then underneath against zone to kind of create after the catch. But there were some impressive moments for JJ. 3rd and 9, 12-16, second quarter. Really excellent anticipation, velocity, and ball placement on an outbreaker to Naylor. Here's the thing with JJ. What I like about him is he can drive the football. He can at times throw with really good anticipation when he trusts it. And on those times when he trusts it, his ball placement does seem to be better when he sees it faster or when he knows where he wants to go with it. Same thing, 3rd and 8, 9:59 in the second quarter. Great drive on an outbreaker to Addison. But again, like from an overall offensive standpoint, I think a lot of this had to do with the matchup, despite him looking a little bit more comfortable. I did like that he was willing to run and able to run. That could help his fantasy value down the stretch, McCarthy specifically. But again, Jefferson's first target was 9-14 in the second quarter. And it just seems to be a situation where in the red zone, teams are bracketing him. They're also mostly bracketing him throughout. And then he does have opportunities, but they're all kind of the whole shot variety, those like tight window throws. And I don't think McCarthy's seeing it fast enough. So I can think this offense will continue to be run first. Quick game from a passing standpoint, which should help players like Hawkinson. He really leaned on him. Naylor when he gets those one-on-ones, and Addison on those out routes because he will have those one-on-one situations. But as I move forward, I'm not all that confident about anyone in this offense outside of maybe Mason if he gets more opportunities, but even then, too much of a split. It's hard to find any confidence in this offense despite them looking better against the Commanders. That's my takeaway.
Well, the next two matchups are also winnable, I think. That's
For
why
sure, Giants.
That's why I wanted to bring this up. Yeah, Giants being the best one there. Dallas and then the Giants. Okay, so yeah, I agree that Mason has given them the best chance on the ground, and they're kind of like leaning into more of like the Michigan Harbaugh McCarthy
Yes.
type of approach. So it like I keep feeling like it makes more sense to get Mason more involved, but it still remains like Aaron Jones is the lead back. So I don't really know what to do with them rest of season. Like a few weeks ago, it looked like Aaron Jones could be a really valuable fantasy player because he was getting like 65% of the work or whatever, and Mason was kind of just the backup. But with this more even split, it's tough. I think Mason or Jones probably is your better bet to start because he gives you some like explosive play upside, but I don't really know. I think you're just kind of like holding and hoping one of the other two gets hurt or the backfield shifts or something. Probably not guys you want to get in the starting lineup. Right now, I have each of them outside of the top 25 rest of season running back rankings, which we'll get to.
I think that's fair. They did own the line of scrimmage of the Vikings, obviously against a pretty weak front with the Commanders, but it just felt good to watch that for them. And I do think like there are some areas of the game that McCarthy is improving in. I just don't know if they're going to help Jefferson. That's the one that scares me the most. Just watching Jefferson. There was one opportunity they had in the red zone on like a deep corner route where Jefferson would have been able to get over the top of the safety who was playing in that side of the field, the split safety. But McCarthy just doesn't see it really well, in my opinion, when it comes to those like intermediate and vertical routes, unless they're the outbreaker types. And they're just not able to run that with Jefferson because he's bracketed. So it just, they were trying to force him the ball at times, which was good to see, like a ton of screens to Jefferson. But like, what's that going to lead to for us, right? Like a 9-yard gain here, a 10-yard gain there. It's not really enough. And in the red zone, there were just plays where Washington was just literally 2 men on Jefferson. And so there's no opportunity there.
Yeah, we've seen the volume shift over to Addison more lately. Yep. And I think where we're at with JJ McCarthy and his processing and everything and the way the defenses are playing, that's probably just going to be less Jefferson and more for Addison and Hawkinson, like you outlined.
Right. Unfortunately.
What do you think about like the Giants as like that feels like a good bounce back spot for Jefferson?
It depends how they play him. It depends if they're going to play him like they have in the past, but that was with Wink Martindale. I don't know if they'll do that. But Charlie Bolden's been was really aggressive in his first start as defensive coordinator for the Giants. I don't think it's a spot for Jefferson. No.
Okay. Well, then we're kind of not feeling good about Jefferson here.
Yeah, I do not feel good about Jefferson after watching this at all. Like, I guess you could start him just because the wide receiver position is so devastating, and like he's so good that maybe we can get lucky. but it's not based on any data or anything we've seen on tape.
Yeah, we'll get to that after our second break here. Okay, the other quarterback, the other passing game that you watched is definitely one that people have been curious about. We finally got a bounce back for them too. That's the
Yes.
Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Any takeaways there?
First of all, maybe we could say it again, though I won't, just because I got a lot of hate for it last week. I don't think it was on this show, more on the mailbag, but the take came from this show. Never wrong, just early on Zay Flowers. Not just kidding. I'm just kidding. But in that first half,
Finally, though, God.
Flowers was more of a focal point than anyone in week 14 in the first half of that Ravens game. I mean, we're talking about like 3 plays in a row designed to Flowers, around the line of scrimmage, third downs going his way, vertical shots, intermediate, unbelievable early third down anticipation throw by Lamar Jackson on the vertical plane to Flowers. And then obviously after that, Flowers just making plays after the catch, looking really good out there. So I felt like Lamar finally in this game, the biggest takeaway I had was more willing to run. There were multiple times where I would see him scramble, break pocket, and run. He looked to slide and he looked to get out of bounds, but that's fine. Like, he needs to protect himself, and I'm okay with that. But in the red zone, he was doing the old Lamar where he would climb the pocket, which brings in the defenders, and then he would have opportunities. One that he threw a touchdown to Isaiah Likely on, another that he just ran in himself for a touchdown before halftime. Just felt good about watching the Ravens offense for the first time in a long time. And it was mostly via 1, Flowers in the passing game, 2, Lamar's ability and willingness to kind of break pockets, scramble, and move forward. And then 3, like, Keaton Mitchell adds an explosive element to this offense. And I'm really glad that they've turned to him as their number 2 there. So it just gives a little bit of a different dynamic for that offense. I came away from this a little bit excited about what we might get from Lamar and that offense in the fantasy playoffs. Obviously, the matchups aren't great. I know that. But I think Green Bay is one of them, and Cincinnati's one of them, which should be good, but wasn't 2 weeks ago. But I do feel like they're in a much better spot from an offensive standpoint this past game than they were 2 weeks ago.
Love it. Yeah. 53% first read target rate for Zay Flowers. Only Michael Wilson had a higher rate this week. Forced 2 missed tackles, contested catch. He had 100% of his targets were catchable, according to Fantasy Points data charting. So that all checks out with what you outlined there, and is really, really, really good. Much, much better than what he has had over the past month. So definitely exciting to see that type of a game. You know, like we've been just dying for that type of a game from freaking Emeka Egbuka. You know, there've been like a lot of these receivers who it's like I point out Egbuka because it's even this past week he had a 44% first read target rate. But only 40% of his targets were catchable, you know. So it's scary. That scary times right now for the Bucs offense. Yeah, but this is I think it's an okay corollary because it's like we hadn't seen any semblance of hope that a Lamar bounce back was coming, and then it just came because we know he's really talented. We know that something similar could happen for Baker Mayfield. And at least with him, it's like we've got, you know, maybe Mike Evans is coming back. Like Godwin continues to be more healthy. Maybe the offense improves, but there's a number of things that aren't really working very well in Tampa Bay right now. Alrighty, good stuff. Always love the film breakdown. Let's hit our second break here, and then we're going to get back with rest of season running back and wide receiver rankings.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
In addition to rest of season rankings, we're definitely going to do the waiver wire today, Dan. Please do not let me forget.
No, we will remember the waiver wire today.
Okay. Let me get my rest of season rankings up on the screen. Let's start a receiver because we were just talking about some of these passing games, and I think these players are really interesting. I think, man, receiver is just a wild position to try to rank right now. But the people requested rest of season rankings, and so let's try to help them out. Okay. Wide receiver, rest of season rankings at the top. Puka Nacua, Jack Smith-Njigba, of course, the guys. Puka Nacua could not have looked better, man. He's a freaking football cyborg. It's insane.
It is great.
He has no fear in his body. Like Rashee Rice, you saw like on some of these drops after he got drilled. And I don't know what it's like to get hit like that. He got his body got absolutely exploded by Jalen Petrie. But like Puka gets hit really hard all the time because they ask him to do insane stuff, you know? And he just keeps playing full speed. It's so crazy. I don't know. I could freaking rant and rave about Puka forever.
Yeah, he plays such a physical style. It's awesome.
JSN, Puka, Jamar Chase,
Okay.
Sun God, CeeDee Lamb, Rice, Pickens, Devontae Adams. I think we're kind of just locked in with them. If you want to worry about Pickens after the weird week, that's fair. It's been not so good with Rice, but I still feel like these are the guys.
It's not so good with Patrick Mahomes. God.
I disagree. I think he's been fine. I think Rice needs to, do what receivers are, paid to do and catch the fucking ball. Oh, don't get me going on the freaking Chiefs, dude. Nico Collins and AJ Brown is where I want to start this discussion. Okay. What I've got is some profiles for a number of these receivers who stood out as interesting to me. If you want to get into the schedule for any of these players too, I did look at that as kind of tiebreaker when I was doing these rankings. But if you're curious about any, let me know. We'll pull it up. What I've got is the past 2 months and then the past month, the expected fantasy points per game, the catchable expected fantasy points per game, to give you an idea of where these players are. So like I talked with Adam about Egbuka, and there's this idea that like regression should be coming for him in a positive way, because he's like 7th in expected fantasy points per game, but he's like 29th in catchable expected fantasy points per game. And so like, that could mean that, that number will be higher. The percentage of his targets that are catchable will be higher. But I don't think it's a guarantee necessarily. Like when it was Devontae Adams that had this kind of an outline where he had a really low percentage of his targets that were catchable, I felt reasonably confident that would improve because it's Stafford, it's Adams, but I don't know, man, with a rookie who's dealt with injuries and a quarterback who's dealt with injuries, and we just keep seeing week after week, they don't seem to be quite connecting, on the same page on stuff. I don't feel super confident at this point in the season that it's going to correct. So I like catchable XFP.
Okay.
And that's what we're going to look at here. So AJ Brown over the past 2 months is wide receiver 7 in catchable XFP, is wide receiver 3 over the past month in catchable XFP per game. Nico Collins is wide receiver 10 over the past 2 months and is wide receiver 16 over the past month. I do have Nico ahead of AJ Brown because I just feel like CJ Stroud is playing better than Jalen Hurts, and I feel like Nico Collins is slightly better than AJ Brown. That's a scary thing to say because AJ Brown has looked pretty good lately. But I think Nico Collins is one of the best players in the league at converting expected fantasy points into actual points.
Yeah.
And so like I'm feeling all right about the Texans. Their offensive line struggled a bit against the Chiefs, but I think that's to be expected. I think overall everything feels really good for Nico, but for AJ Brown too. I mean, he's been going on quite the run here. Do you have any thoughts on those two? You traded away Nico. You still feeling fine with that? Yeah, 3 straight 100-yard games for AJB, 4 straight double-digit target games for AJB.
Yeah, the decision was essentially Nico or Devontae Adams. I would say out of those two, moving forward, I probably still have Adams a little bit higher, even though it does seem to come down to the touchdowns. And as far as AJ Brown goes, we're seeing, I think you brought this up a couple of weeks ago, we're seeing more of an effort to get him the football than we did earlier this season, which is certainly helpful for us from a fantasy standpoint. But I like your take on Nico over AJ rest of the season, not just because I have more trust in the Texans passing game, but just because I think that from what I've seen, Stroud is doing, this entire Texans offense is doing a much better job than they were earlier this season. And I heard them talk about it like 2 weeks ago when it was Mills quarterbacking that offense. They just seem to be understanding what they want to do schematically better from a new coordinator. It makes sense. His first year in the system.
Yeah. So we got Raiders and then Commanders and then Bills for AJ Brown. So if you were able to, buy low on AJB or just hold on to him, I think it's looking really good. Like he could be a really strong producer down the stretch here. I have been wide receiver 10, and I said he was wide receiver 3 in catchable XFP over the past month, wide receiver 7 over the past 2 months. So with this schedule, he honestly could be pushing up back into that range that we've seen him in the past with CeeDee Lamb and Sun God and some of those players. I can't help but not feel good when I watch their offense, their passing game. You know what I mean? Like he made a lot of big plays on the sideline last night, but we also know that those can be misses,
Yeah.
We'll see. Nico Collins has the Cardinals and then the Raiders. So I think you could get huge points these next 2 games. On the road against the Chargers in Week 17 is a bit scary for Nico, just the way that they like to play defense. But overall, I feel pretty great about Nico Collins. So AJ Brown, the first big riser for us at wide receiver. I'd been pretty low on him. I've had Devontae Smith above him for most of the season. But at this point, it seems like they're pretty intent on getting him the ball, and he's starting to look more and more like the guy that we know. And that guy's been really, really good for fantasy. So moved him up. He's at wide receiver 10. Devontae Smith is a wide receiver 15. In between those two, you'll find Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave, T. Higgins, and Zay Flowers. And then Devontae Smith at wide receiver 15. Jameson Williams at wide receiver 16. And our next biggest riser is Courtland Sutton at wide receiver 17. Sutton has, in the 2 games since the bye, it hasn't been huge for fantasy, 62 yards in each of those games, but he's been locked in as the clear wide receiver 1. And I think the thing that really stands out the most to me is that the role has been scaled back for Troy Franklin. I think he had a 40% route rate this week.
Yep.
And to me, that kind of signals that we're back where we were last year, where it was like Sutton was the clear top guy. No other receivers got like a route rate above 70% because they're all mixing and matching, and the offense is just kind of built around him. So he's got less than ideal matchups the rest of the way. It's Green Bay, Jacksonville, and then on the road against the Chiefs. I'm curious how you feel about this range, if it feels too high, because we've seen him produce like this. But there's some other receivers to feel good about, like Jacoby Myers, we talked about, I've got behind him. DK Metcalf, we're going to talk about. Things have looked a lot better for him. I've got him behind him. Mecca Buka, some of these bounce back guys, maybe. What do you think about Sutton rest of the season?
I would say it would be too high for where I'm at with him rest of season. I just find it tough to trust 2 of those matchups, Green Bay and Chiefs, especially that final Chiefs game in Kansas City. It's going to be cold and miserable, and nobody's going to be throwing the football. I feel like that game's going to be like 23 points total between those 2 teams after watching the Texans Chiefs the other night. With that said, I will ask you this, because I'm okay. Like, if we could start talking about players to move up above him, like Jacoby Myers for sure. There's one player that seemed and I haven't seen the chat mention this yet, that I'm just surprised to see not anywhere near here. And it might be based on just like the injury situation for the team. But where is the superstar of all superstars on pace for about 2,000 yards and 200 receptions in games where his fellow teammate isn't in?
Right.
Michael Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, we have no idea
it's such
what's
a tough
going to
person
happen
to rank
with the Cardinals. And the matchups are not perfect, we'll see. He's got Houston on the road this week. Then Atlanta could be a good spot for him, I think. But then the Bengals have really done a good job against wide receiver 1s. We did see the 1 week where he was in the wide receiver 1. It was 3 catches on 7 targets. The other weeks he's just crushed. And so maybe he would be fine in this against Turner and then in Cincy, but if he is still wide receiver 1, but I think we're going to have Marvin Harrison Jr. back. So that's where I'm at, is like, I think, I figured he would, I figured he'd need to, well, no, if it was under the assumption that Harrison was playing, he'd probably be in this range, like in the low end wide receiver 3 range.
To be in that range regardless of who is playing. I know it didn't work out that 1 game sample against the Bucks when Harrison was in.
Well, no, it's not a 1 game sample. It's like
no. I mean, since his real breakout.
Yeah.
Obviously not earlier in the year when they didn't, I guess, know what they had in this player.
They've had him for 3 years, right?
I know. It doesn't make sense from the coaching standpoint, obviously. With that said, I feel like sometimes you see these breakouts and then it's like, all right, the coaches realize they have to get him the football. It just doesn't make sense not to throw him the football. I know Matt Wallman was breaking down his tape last night on Twitter, and I thought he made such a good comp for what he's doing on the field right now. And this was kind of his pre-comp. And remember, this is a player that I know this was a little bit before we were doing Beyond the Box Score, but his film was phenomenal at Stanford. Like, it was not in a pass-first offense there, but if you watched him, if you actually broke down the tape, you saw the separation creates. He compared him to Michael Thomas, and I do see a lot of old Saints Michael Thomas and Wilson when I watch him play. That ability, as Wallman was saying, the bully ball, just the unbelievable body control and contested catch situations. I don't know how they could like put the cap back on for Michael Wilson. I know it didn't happen against Tampa in that game, but I just feel like he could continue to be a league winner down the stretch. Like, I can't some of these guys I just can't rank ahead of him.
Yeah, I figured he would be a point of contention. So let's since we're here, let's just move him. I'm totally fine moving him up here above Justin Jefferson and Ladd McConkey. I've got, so for anybody listening, we got to the Cortland Sutton range was wide receiver 17. That was behind Zay Flowers, T. Higgins, Devontae Smith, and Jamison Williams. I did push Jacoby Myers up ahead of Sutton. I figured that move was coming from Dan in the chat. For me, I think Sutton has significantly more upside than Jacoby Myers. I mean, Myers had like 11 targets this past week and had 39 yards or whatever. But I get it. It feels good right now. And I think he is locked into a role, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's like Brenton Strange and him are kind of getting the same type of a volume over the middle as the year closes out, which to me is more like a mid or low end wide receiver 2 for Jacoby. But I've got Jacoby wide receiver 17. I think the recent volume basically warrants that. I've got Sutton behind him at 18. And I do want to still sort through this range with you, but for the listeners, after that is DK Metcalf, Stephon Diggs, Emeka Egbuka, Terry McLaurin, Tedero McMillan, and we've arrived at where I just moved Michael Wilson up to, which is 5 spots from the original ranking at wide receiver 24. If there's just no Marvin Harrison Jr. at all, and we're just like what we've been seeing, like he's going to play a similar type of a role, I don't think he would keep producing 150 yards per game necessarily. But the role is so good that he would probably be up here in the same range. I think I would put him
good.
If I knew Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't going to play, I think I would put him right behind Nico Collins and AJ Brown.
I'm glad you said that because that's where he belongs.
And just ahead of Jalen Waddle and Chris Olave.
I also worry a little bit. We don't have to get into this too much. I worry a little bit about the splits with Shuck and Rattler for Olave. And I have Olave on a lot of teams. It just hasn't been great with those two. It's been much worse for Olave since Shuck came in.
When I looked at the catchable XFP, he was up in this range. Like, if there was anybody who wasn't basically where they're at in my rankings, there's a clear reason, and so I can look into that if you want. But I felt pretty fine with it because to me, it's felt a bit fragile for Olave, where he's like actually scoring touchdowns and stuff like that, and I'm like, if he doesn't, like maybe it gets kind of bad. But I think his catchable XFP points towards him it being something that we can maybe count on, and he's such a good player that this is kind of where I landed on him because like I don't feel confident T. Higgins really or Zay Flowers or Devontae Smith or Jamison Williams. Those are the guys directly behind him. I could maybe move T ahead of him. I think there's a lot more upside with him. But yeah, that's basically where I landed is like outside of this top 10, it's pretty dicey. So like Waddle is one of these players who does not have a good catchable XFP number, even though his role like in theory has been good. If you look at like targets per route run, first 3 targets and stuff like that, those are all really high. It's just been the Tua's playing like freaking crap and they're not passing the ball very much at all. They're like really, really, really wanting to lean the run game. Even when Devon Achane goes down, it's like Jalen Wright 24 times, you know? And so like his overall number is not very high. I think he was like wide receiver 30 over the past month in catchable XFP per game. But we know can produce well, and so that's where I landed on him. And so yeah, even him, like outside the top 10, it gets real dicey. And so it's interesting to talk about these players because I think some of these are going to be start sit decisions. If you landed on Michael Wilson off the waiver wire or whatever, if you're able to trade for somebody like Diggs or something like that, if you got Christian Watson off the waiver wire, Luther Burden off the waiver wire, these are going to be some interesting discussions. So it's good to think about the volume where they're at, and talk about the outlook for these guys.
Confidence wise, I almost feel like out of this range of receivers, and I think you did a good job breaking down the fact that we can't really feel too confident about any of them, honestly. But like, I almost feel like the role's trending right for Metcalf. Like the Steelers have realized that's a good way to get their offense moving. Right for Wilson. I understand, like, even if Harrison comes back, maybe I feel a little less confident, but I think we're seeing an actual breakout type player. And then Watson is the one that I would want to go to next, like all the way down at 28. I think you have him there. I think I feel more confident about Watson than anyone after Diggs, really, of that group, not including Wilson.
Yeah, man, it is such a funny moment in time where we are right now because I've been like the high man on Watson for his entire career. And now everybody is just like fully convinced that we can just trust this with Christian Watson. and I'm like somehow the low man on Christian Watson. It's been great. He is a good player. Jordan Love is a very good player. I don't see him very different at all if you are like projecting forward to the Ladd McConkeys, the Michael Pittmans, the Brian Thomas
Okay.
Juniors,
Wow.
the guys that are ranked around him. He got 4 targets this past week, like they
Yeah.
brought Jane Reed back, and nobody had a target share above 17%. And that's
Yeah.
what we've seen from them is they spread it around a ton and they don't pass very much. And a lot of his targets are coming down the field. It was great to see him get like the horizontal catch and run touchdown. But to me, it's like you got Denver on the road this week. If Christian Watson gives you 2 points this week, that will not surprise me at
True.
all. And then what? We're back. We're back exactly where everyone's just freaking terrified to start
True.
him. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like perception just shifted because he scored 5 touchdowns in the past 4 games. And he happens to have 80 yards in the past 2 games. So it's like, we feel like he's consistent. And it's like, I don't know. Like,
That's fair.
he never has been. I really, really like the player. And there's upside for him to outscore all these players. And I'm fine moving him ahead of any of them because you can make a similar case for Stephon Diggs, who's been terrible the past 2 weeks. And Emeka Egbuka's been hella consistent all year long.
McMillan gets no targets.
Yeah. So
Jefferson doesn't get the ball either. McConkey's in a horrific passing game. Pittman may be done with Rivers or whatever is going to happen at quarterback there.
Yeah. So this is where I landed on Watson because I
Yeah.
don't feel confident. And then I looked at the schedule and I'm like, oh gosh, like, I don't know. Week 15 could be brutal.
Yeah, that's a good point, though. It's the schedule does suck.
Baltimore's defense has been better. I think week 16 could be a good spot, but also it could be snowy.
Cold,
it could be 1 degree. Like, it's against the Chicago Bears on the road.
Fair.
For listeners.
Very fair.
So I've got Watson at 28, wide receiver 28, and that's in between Brian Thomas Jr. at wide receiver 29 and Michael Pittman at wide receiver 27. Pittman on paper should be much, much higher. It's just this brutal run out here with the quarterback situation.
I don't know what we can expect from Rivers. I really don't.
Yeah.
Like they said today for him right now, as far as if we're going to see Rippin or Rivers this week, because I think Riley Leonard's week to week, so I doubt he'll play this week. It just comes down to how Rivers feels after practice physically.
Let's move Watson ahead of Ladd McConkey. McConkey is on the road against Kansas City, on the road against Dallas, and then Houston. And so it's like the 2 of those games, probably just Dallas is like maybe a shootout.
There's no shootouts anymore with LAC.
I know. Yeah. That's the thing. Is like even against Dallas, I could see Dallas's defensive line really giving them problems.
Same.
Houston matchups just terrifying.
Yeah, I feel horrific about that.
So I moved Pittman, Watson, and BTJ ahead of McConkey. He's like probably the biggest faller for me over the past 2 weeks. Jefferson, I think I still want to leave ahead of him because I do think that he could give you some huge games in these matchups.
He's
and
good. Yeah.
I think the downside is similar. Like what we've seen these past couple of weeks where he can actually bottom out, give you nothing exists for Watson in my mind. And it exists for BTJ.
I think that's fair. And I'll say this from just having watched the tape. Because I saw people talking about this on Twitter, Jacob, and I just wanted to see if I agreed with it at all. Justin Jefferson has lost literally nothing. He looked explosive in his routes. He looked awesome. He was open a lot. He just wasn't getting the ball. The hope, I guess, is that McCarthy can start to see it faster down the stretch and get the ball out with anticipation, Jefferson. But there's very few opportunities, honestly, because he's bracketed every time in the red zone, and it's just very difficult to get him the football.
Shedeur McMillan, who we need to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Coming out of the bye week, could this be a post-bye rookie bump for T-Mac? Late season bye week, maybe they find more ways to get the ball into his hands after a 2-target game against the Rams. Before that, it was 7 targets, 12 targets, 8 targets. We've finally seen, some upside here over the past month leading into the bye week. And coming out, it gets a matchup against the Saints and then the Bucks. Those are 2 games that could be high scoring, maybe. But then week 17 is against the Seahawks. The Panthers have a lot to play for, and I think that if they had their way, they're just going to run the ball 40 times.
Yes,
which I think they could do against the Bucks or against the Saints, and could potentially do against the Bucks, depending on how the Bucks offense plays. But the Bucks have been tough against the run. So how you feel about T-Mac? I've got him at wide receiver 23 behind Diggs, Egbuka, and McLaurin. Are you still Michael Wilson over McMillan?
Definitely Michael Wilson over McMillan. For me, I'm feeling very unconfident about McMillan rest of the way. So first of all, interesting note on the Saints matchup. Brandon Staley, the much maligned Brandon Staley, who was a horrific head coach, but made his mark as a defensive mind, has done a really phenomenal job with the Saints. I saw some stats today on their defense over the last couple of months. They're like top 5 in all metrics. So that to me is not a good matchup. And obviously Seattle's a horrific matchup. I think ultimately it comes down to the Panthers want to run the football. They'll take some shots off the run action, but it's not enough for me to feel confident about anyone in their passing game. And if I was going to pick one receiver rest of season there to score the most points, it actually might be Coker.
Okay. I love Coker, but I think no way in hell you can make that bet. I do love Jalen Coker, but I think McMillan is pretty much locked in, and he has so much big play potential.
Just from a matchup standpoint, like I think they'll take away McMillan on the outside, and there's not going to be much opportunity, but potentially
we just saw it in this past game, a similar type of outcome. So it's possible for sure.
But that's not like to say he'll be good either. I just have no confidence in the Panthers passing game in 2 of those 3 matchups.
Yeah. So on McMillan, it's wide receiver 21 per game and catchable XFP over the past 2 months, wide receiver 24 over the past month. So this is pretty much where he's been, where we have him ranked. So I don't want to push him any lower just because I think that there is a chance that we get something unexpected from a rookie. Like if I'm betting on any of these players to elevate their game at this point in the season, it's him. It's Luther Burden.
Sure. Burden is one we can get into.
We'll get into him in a moment. Yeah.
And just to be clear, Satoshi.00, I do not hate Tedero McMillan. I actually think he's a phenomenal talent. I was a huge fan of his tape in college. What I hate is his fantasy outlook rest of season because I don't trust the Panthers pass game at all in 2 of those 3 matchups.
Let's talk about Stephon Diggs and Metcalf. So the usage was way better for Metcalf. Yes. Adam and I talked about him quite a bit on Monday's show. Go listen to that if you haven't. Diggs is somebody who I think has the most upside of anyone in this range, but we just haven't seen these past 2 weeks. And so it's scary, 20 and 26 yards these past 2 weeks. This is exactly what we talked about after we got so excited about this week 11 game against the Jets, where his usage ramped up. We finally saw his route rate way up. We talked about still though, Drake May, we know is willing to spread the ball around. And so I'm nervous that maybe he could on occasion lose out. There could be a game where you just don't have to go to Diggs that much and you get this type of a performance. Also his route rate is scaled back. The Giants game, they just didn't need to pass very much in the second half. But that might change here in week 15, 16. They've got Buffalo. They've got Baltimore. They're coming out of the bye week. Like we've seen with the Denver Broncos coming out of the bye week, they really start to lock in on Courtland Sutton. I think it makes sense to give your young quarterback a veteran receiver who is the go-to guy, even if you do have a lot of other good role players, and that's been working reasonably well. I think ideally you've got a wide receiver 1. And I think that they do have that here in Stephon Diggs. We've seen him rise to the occasion and do that. 3 games over 100 yards this year. All of his per route data is really, really good on the year. So where are you at on Diggs? It's mostly just an upside versus floor conversation, I think. Does this look about where I had a wide receiver 20?
I think so. I mean, we talked, of course, except for my Wilson thing, which I would just have him so much higher. But outside of that, Diggs has proven that he can do it. It's just for us a matter of, will he get the opportunities to do it in this offense? And I think it's weird because that Giants game looked like at the start it could be a decent possibility for Diggs, but this game script just fell out of hand so fast. And as we look forward on that schedule, I'm not so sure some of the game script's going to be great for him. The Jets game obviously had a big first game against the Jets, but they were actually kind of moving the ball on offense in that game. And the Jets now could be Brady Cook the rest of the year at quarterback, which would be an absolute nightmare for that from a game script standpoint. So it's just hard for me to feel confident about a player who just isn't all that involved when the Patriots get out to big leads.
Totally fair. DK Metcalf is the other one I wanted to talk about. I've been moving him way up. He's one of the biggest risers, and I think you could push him even higher. The volume has been good lately. We see the big game here against the Ravens where they found a deep shot early and they just kept hammering that deep perimeter shot against Baltimore. I think Rodgers looked the best that I've seen him in a while, which is good because he got a bit banged up before this game. And so down the stretch here, you got Miami, and then on the road against the Lions, and then on the road against the Browns. Lions defense has been a bit leakier than we're used to seeing. And the Browns, I think, showed the first signs of let up last week against the Titans, where it's like getting cold, getting
That's
sick of
weird.
this crap. Like we kind of see this with some of these defenses and teams that are ready for their vacation. So week 17 against the Browns, I think could actually be a decent spot for Metcalf. With the Steelers definitely playing for something. And again, this is another situation where it's like you kind of lock in on the veteran receiver, right? As you're trying to get in the playoffs. And that's definitely what we've seen from Rodgers. So I think you can move him ahead of Sutton, ahead of Myers even. Would
I'm
you
good
push him
with
any
both of that.
higher than that?
I could put him ahead of Devontae. I could probably put him ahead of Jameson Williams. Though that one
Devonta
feels,
Smith, not Devontae Adams.
yeah,
For
definitely not.
listeners.
Though probably not ahead of Jameson. I'd probably move Devontae Smith below JMO and then Metcalf maybe atop them. And I think that's where it would top out for me.
Okay. I think you could even maybe put him ahead of Flowers, like similar. If the usage we've seen lately is sustainable, then it's similar type of usage, but with a red zone role.
True. And
He's,
Flowers doesn't have
I
that.
think
Yeah.
Flowers is a better, I feel more reliable in the like Lamar to Flowers connection than I do Rodgers to Metcalf, in terms of any given target, like it working
Sure.
out. But it's looked good lately. I think, this is the range we've arrived with Metcalf. It's funny, some of these players I've had a tough time with. It's like at this point, like this
Now
is
we
where,
need him.
this is where we're at.
We
Yeah.
rely on them.
Metcalf, I've not been able to quite like figure out what it would be like this year. Early in the year was weird, but lately it's like focused on him, and we're getting more downfield looks, and
Yeah.
we're seeing that Rodgers is capable and is able and willing to take these shots down the field, which early in the year it was like just think and dunk and screens and weird stuff. They also went a little bit more pass heavy than normal this past week.
Yep.
So I think, it's setting up real nice for him. Okay, so let's talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. And Michael Wilson. We don't know when MHJ is going to be back. I've got him at wide receiver 31, ahead of Alec Pierce and Jordan Addison and Juwan Jennings, behind Luther Burden, Brian Thomas Jr., Christian Watson, Ladd McConkey. When he's been in there, it's been good. So over the past 2 months, he's wide receiver 13 and catchable expected fantasy points per game. For comparison, Ladd McConkey's wide receiver 28 over the past 2 months. He's wide receiver 58 over the past month. So that's why he's plummeting down the rankings here. But the Michael Wilson thing is real, and I don't think it's just going to completely go away. And so, some people have thought that like MHJ, just you plug him in with how Jacoby Brissett's playing and it's going to be huge, because he's actually been pretty good. Like I brought up the per route data earlier and looked at the year 2 receivers, and he's at the top of, Odunze and all these guys. I think he's been decent, and the offense right now is obviously producing a ton of volume. But at the same time, he might be like 2 or 3 in terms of targets, on any given week, with McBride and Michael Wilson playing really, really well. So as we think about this offense and these 2 receivers, let's look at the schedule, and you let me know where you want to put Wilson, with the assumption that MHJ might be back for some of these games. They've got Houston and then Atlanta, then Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, Houston sucks. Obviously, we're not going to expect that much there. But Atlanta, Cincinnati, I'm perfectly fine with both of those matchups. One in a dome. I wish that Cincinnati one was at home, but it's fine. I just think ultimately, like watching the Cardinals over this last month of football, it's weird to say, and I made the comparison last week, but Brissett is kind of the closest thing we have to like the fantasy runouts we've gotten from Jameis when he's gotten to play. There's just so much pass volume. Their defense is totally broken at this point. Gannon is getting fired. They've quit on Gannon. And one of their best players, their rookie, Walter Nolan's injured. I don't know when he's coming back. He might have been back this past game. I don't think he was, though. So I just feel like that defense continue to spiral downhill. And the volume is just going to be wild for Brissett moving forward the rest of the season. I don't feel that way about almost every offense. So with that said, I look at this team and like, even if Marvin Harrison Jr. is back, and I'm not sure when he will be back, outside of this Houston game, I feel pretty confident that McBride and Wilson and maybe MHJ will all eat at that point. Like it sounds ridiculous, but let's just take a look at what Jacoby Brissett has done and his passing game has done over the last, however many weeks. I'm going to take a quick look at just his game log from an attempt standpoint. 44, 40, 49, 57, 44 over the last 5 games for Jacoby Brissett from an attempt standpoint. One of those was against the Seahawks. What other offenses are throwing with that kind of volume?
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it's like 28 this week against Houston and they just get
Yeah, this one doesn't feel
destroyed.
good with Houston. This
Well,
it
it's
might be
really
bad the
important.
first week.
It's the first week of the fantasy playoffs. If you've got a bye, and you also think that Marvin is not coming back, then you're great. You're golden. I'm curious where you would move him if you don't know that Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to miss the rest of the season. How high would you push him?
Yeah, just it's much higher. I mean, it's much harder to do without that piece of information. But for me, again, I'm very aggressive on Michael Wilson moving forward. I would have him. It's going to sound crazy, but after Metcalf, and it doesn't sound that crazy when you just think of actual what he's done on the field. And you don't have to move him there. Obviously, it's a ridiculous ranking, maybe to some, but like these guys don't like. He's actually an absolute week winner for like the last. Every game that Harrison hasn't played in the last 5 weeks, he's been an absolute week winner, one of the best players on the slate. None of these other guys have done that in even one of their weeks.
What if MHJ is playing, where would these two be for you?
Okay, then at that point, I'm going to rank him higher than MHJ, first of all, because I don't think MHJ is going to be fully healthy, even coming back from the heel. And I'd probably say after the range of definitely after Diggs, probably after Ibuka, but I don't even know if I'd put him ahead of Ibuka.
Okay. And then MHJ, where is he
right
climbing?
After? Yeah.
He's ahead of Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, McLaurin, I mean, with Mariota rest of way, doesn't feel great, right?
I don't know. 2 weeks ago, Mariota produced like 500 air yards.
True.
And a lot of it was catchable.
Against Denver, too.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe after McLaurin, certainly ahead of McMillan for me. I feel more confident, honestly, after you went over it earlier, like BTJ higher than a lot of these players. Justin Jefferson, Pittman, McMillan. Like McMillan has 2 horrible matchups. Jefferson doesn't get the ball in that offense. Pittman with a weird quarterback situation. I also kind of feel like Burden ahead of those guys. I don't know. They're big names and they were productive at some points this season, but their passing games are like in really bad spots.
Yeah. So it's been better for BTJ lately, and I gave you a lot of reasons why I feel reasonably bullish about it. But still, over the past 2 months, he's only played 4 games, so this is per game, though. Over the past 2 months, he's wide receiver 37 and catchable expected fantasy points per game. By the way, Christian Watson is 36. So I guess that's kind of what I was saying is like, it's been awesome. And he's somebody who I think is good enough to outproduce his expected number, but 36th in catchable expected fantasy points per game for Watson. Over the past 2 months, the guys who are ahead of those two at 36 and 37 are Stephon Diggs and Emeka Egbuka, 2 other interesting players to think about over the past 2 months outside of the top 30 in catchable expected fantasy points at receiver. Of course, some things have changed here and there for some of these players, like Jameson Williams is 32nd, but he's pushed up much higher lately. But I think it's just, it can be pretty dicey with these guys. Egbuka's getting a ton of downfield targets, obviously. Christian Watson and BTJ do as well. McConkey, it's just been all over the place lately.
And Egbuka was running really hot with touchdown luck earlier in the season.
Yeah. Some interesting names stood out over the past month in terms of catchable XFP are John Mechie at wide receiver 18. So I wanted to bring him up, and like Devon Vele is another one. I wanted to bring these guys up and see how high you would move them. So as I'm thinking about Mechie, it's tough because we don't know what to expect at wide receiver. But I think I would put him basically in the same range as Adonai Mitchell. And that's where you find like, don't know what to do with Troy Franklin. But you find like Pat Bryant for the Broncos was their wide receiver 2 over the past couple of games. Jalen Coker, who you mentioned earlier. I think he's somebody who has been usable and could be, but we just don't know what we're going to get at quarterback. But it's like he's the short target guy, you know? So I think it's him and Taylor who are probably going to get the most looks.
Bailey's for me with Mechie, he's an unplayable, unusable, unrosterable player unless Tyrod Taylor's at quarterback. If it's Cook, unusable. If it's Justin Fields, unusable.
Vele's in this range as well. Devon,
yes, that I can get a little bit.
Played pretty well. We feel a little bit better about the quarterback situation there.
Sure.
He is wide receiver 28 in catchable expected fantasy points per game over the past month. Devon Vele. Jaden Higgins is another name in this range. Higgins is 27. Jacoby Myers. So Jacoby, it's been great, right? He's 20,
Right.
wide receiver 25 in catchable XFP per game over the past month. That's just behind Tedro McMillan, Alec Pierce, who it's kind of fallen off a little bit. Christian Watson's at wide receiver 21 over the past month. So that's I brought that up earlier about his upside. It's like he's getting a lot of targets. They're just a lot of kind of low value targets. So I wanted to bring that up. Egbuka's in this range too. Wide receiver
With
30.
London at 45, is that just because of the uncertainty? We don't know if he's going to play.
Right.
Okay. If he's back for this week, where would London rank for you?
Very high, of course.
Even with Cousins.
Yeah.
Okay.
This guy's so good. I'm nervous about where he's at with his health if he is
Sure.
to play. But let's look at London. He's got Tampa Bay on the road, and then Arizona on the road, and then the LA Rams in week 17. If I knew London was playing this week, I would put Drake London. I would put Drake London in the Jamison Williams, DK Metcalf range, I think.
I think so too. A little bit of a knock from where he normally is because of Cousins, but other than that.
Also, he might not. I mean, if he's playing through the injury,
right,
and he's at like 80%, that would hurt.
True.
Like all of a sudden you might be just getting, if you get 80% diminished efficiency, all of a sudden these 100-yard games are not that.
Those are all the Penix too. I think is so much better fit for his skill set. One player I saw ranked low for you that I'm definitely higher on rest of season is Juwan Jennings for the 49ers. Feel good about the health of their pass game. Feel good about his rapport with Brock Purdy. Much better than I do feel about a lot of players who are ranked ahead of him.
Yeah, Juwan Jennings hasn't given us big games really, but the volume has been pretty solid. Coming out of the bye week, we'll see if they get like Pearsall more involved or anything. They've got Tennessee this week, then they're on the road against the Colts, and then they have the Bears in week 17. 2 of those 3 games at home. So good
all
weather.
3 good weather games.
Indy is a dome. I think that's fair to move him up. I've got Juwan Jennings at wide receiver 35 behind Jordan Addison, Alec Pierce, and Luther Burden. How high would you move him?
Well, it's just tough for me because I just some of these players like I'm not as high on, I guess, Pittman and McMillan and Jefferson, really. I don't know if I can put him ahead of them. I'm trying to think if I would move him ahead of those players. In some degree, I honestly would, because I just feel so much more confident about those passing games producing anything for the players. But it seems like a bit too egregious, right, to go that high with him.
Sorry, I was keeping up to go how high with him? I was keeping up for the chat.
To go like above McMillan with him. That's kind of too much, right?
It just seems super speculative, and we just haven't seen any upside from him. Like when we've seen Juwan Jennings really eat in terms of fantasy, it's been like through massive target volume and mostly because other people have been out. So much of what they do is built around CMC, and then Kittle has been balling out lately too. So to me, he's just kind of a secondary piece for them. I
look at it like this: like he may be a secondary piece for them, but even in that role, in an offense like that, with 3 good weather games and an offense that actually produces touchdowns, he's had 4 touchdowns in the last 5 games. Like against players like Jefferson, who has just no involvement in a bad offense, McMillan, no involvement in a bad passing offense. Those are, it's hard for me to feel like he's losing out. Like Pittman with his quarterback situation, Watson, you talk me out off of with Reed coming back. I don't know. I just feel more confident in him. It's not like we're not at a point here where we're talking about you need much to be put in this wide receiver 2 range, right? Even like what he's had, that 4, 5, 6, 7 target volume with a lot of scoring opportunities and a good offense is enough to really put him in this range.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's one of the rare receivers you feel reasonably confident in. I see him similarly to Jacoby Myers.
That's fair. I think
at wide receiver 19,
Yeah.
So yeah, just another example of like, this is really a fluid range and they're all kind of the same in terms of like their overall outlook. Some players have more upside and some players are, more like, we feel good about this offense. We feel good about the matchups. Juwan Jennings is that.
It's crazy how far the Chargers pass game has fallen for us. Like early season, we're ranking Quentin Johnston up there. We had Keenan Allen as a playable player. Gadsden was awesome. Just that's what the injuries have done to it.
Do you realize how much worse Wan'Dale Robinson's per route data is with Jackson Dart at quarterback?
Yes, because most of his reduction came from the Russell Wilson game in week 2 against Dallas and the Jameis game.
That's a huge difference. So I've got him at wide receiver 37. He's another guy who's like safe, right?
Not really. Not with Dart.
I think I feel all right about it. I think I've got him just behind Khalil Shakir. I think I feel all right about it. But yeah, it's because he's like on the year, he's like wide receiver 7 or something in catchable expected fantasy points. Like the role has been really good for him. And I don't think the role has necessarily changed. It's just that Dart doesn't seem to like lock in on him and is more willing to run than like check it down.
Yes.
But I still think he's like the offense has him built in as the top target, and I feel pretty good about the offense, the passing game health. So this is where I've landed. Mike Evans, I wanted to bring up.
I feel a little less confident because, like, for example, like most of the production came from those 3 games with Jameis and Russell. The Russell game was just vertical shots up the seam, which is not going to happen with Dart. And the Jameis game was like intermediate outbreaking routes, which isn't really happening as much with Dart. No offense to Dart. I'm excited about his future, but he doesn't see the field the way Jameis does. He doesn't rip the ball the way Jameis does. So, and they're protecting him a little bit more with quick game. And that's why last game with Dart and Wan'Dale was like, felt a lot like, and Nick, my co, said it felt like a lot watching like the Daniel Jones Wan'Dale era, which was like a lot of like these 2-3 yard targets, which are fine, I guess, for PPR for Wan'Dale. I just don't find as much excitement about him outside of that.
Yeah. To be clear, like I think I wanted to bring up the comparisons just so people know like what we've got all year isn't necessarily what we can expect.
Right.
But just because it's like even if it is significantly worse with Dart than the other guys, that doesn't mean that he's not usable. Like he's still like this is the lowest you're going to find a wide receiver 1 on a team. You know what I'm saying? Like I think we've dinged him a lot, but at the end of the day, you're getting into a range with a lot of players who could give you 0.
That's fair.
And so I think he's still like the top piece of an offense that isn't awful. I wanted to bring up Evans and Jayden Reed and Rome Odunze, unfortunately. I have Rome Odunze at wide receiver 46, 2 spots ahead of DJ Moore. And I think you can move Jaden Higgins ahead of him. Like there are a lot of receivers in this range that I prefer. The schedule we've talked about, like I think lends itself to more of the like ground and pound, and he's like week to week with a foot injury. And it seems like Luther Burden is starting to emerge. I do have Burden significantly higher. So this is where we're at. I still think like if you can hold on to Odunze, that's potentially something that could pay off for you in week 17 on the road against San Francisco. But it's really rough, and I don't even know if he's going to play. I ranked him similarly to Drake London, I guess. But I think London's just a much better player.
100% with you on that. Wouldn't have any confidence starting him against Cleveland. Wouldn't have any confidence starting him in that cold game against the Bears. Maybe week 17.
Yeah, I've got him on a team. My CBS team, our FFT Open, where I almost just dropped him.
I have him on that team too. My open team too. It's funny.
Kind of shallower benches, and it's like, gosh, this sucks. Okay. That's pretty much it. Let me just read through these names and for the listeners, and you can tell me if anybody stands out to you. So I've got Mike Evans at 38. If Mike Evans is in this week, I would probably have Mike Evans in the same range as like Christian Watson.
Okay.
With the upside for him to swing much higher, we just don't know what it's going to look like. And it's been pretty dicey for Baker. Baker doesn't have a game above 200 catchable air yards all year. Wow. That could change. Evans being back could change that. So I've got Evans at 38, Kayshon Boutte at 39, Romeo Doubs at 40. The numbers have fallen way off for Doubs lately.
Yeah.
Keenan Allen at 41, Chris Godwin at 42, Quentin Johnston at 43, Deebo Samuel at 44. Deebo actually, like on paper, is a much better play than this. I just don't really feel any confidence in the offense, but maybe even more short target volume shifts his way without Zach Ertz. He might be a much better play than this. Jayden Reed at wide receiver 45, Odunze 46, Ricky Pearsall 47, DJ Moore, Jaden Higgins, Xavier Worthy, Rashid Shaheed, Darnell Mooney, Pat Bryant for the Broncos, Jalen Coker, and then Devon Vele. I think, let's move Vele up. I
Yeah.
don't think we quite finished that.
It's going to be something weird is going to happen in the fantasy playoffs. Like we're going to get weird breakouts, just how it's going to be. This just feels like so. I could move Vele up based on what we've seen lately, but it won't surprise me if like randomly Pearsall goes off or
Sure.
like it just.
I want to have Godwin a lot higher than this, but I'm nervous that if Evans is back and playing a full-time role, that Godwin only is going to play like 2/3 of the snaps. That he'll be like just the slot role, which is what Sterling Shepard's been doing.
It's definitely a concern of mine too, and it's hard to have too many Bucks players ranked high right now with what we're seeing from their passing game and Baker's health.
Yeah. What's up, Scott? He says, "Hey guys, thanks for the help this season. Number 1 seed in both leagues." Heck yeah, dude. Let's take a quick break before we transition to running back and just say thank you to everybody for sharing your screenshots of your teams and stuff like that. I love that. Love to see how the Beyond the Box Score crew has done this year. I feel like it's been a really good year. Like most of what I've heard from listeners is really positive in terms of how their teams have shaken out here. The stuff that has been like frustrating for us, or that like that the chat gives us a lot of crap for, is like Bayshell 2 never worked out. And it's like, well, that was your round 12 pick, like, we swing on upside in that range for sure. And sometimes it's just
look at Harvey pulling out end of season.
Harvey was a round 6 pick or whatever, though.
I know, but now you're happy to have him.
More realistically, look at Monangai, like that's somebody that we were very high, and you loved Monangai for sure. And like, he's actually been pretty dang good, and you got him for free.
True.
Okay. Rest of season running back rankings. The biggest risers at the running back position: Travis Etienne, RJ Harvey, Ramondre Stevenson. So I've got Etienne up at running back 12. I think that's the highest he's been in my rankings all year.
Love it.
Yeah, we saw Tootin fumbled, and I think there was a reported injury, but he was playing special teams into the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter. So I think it was just a benching.
Oof.
We'll see what happens for him out. I mean, honestly, not oof. Like, who cares at this point? It's better for fantasy if it's just Etienne, It's way worse when it's like Tootin coming in and stealing goal line touches, but not getting anything else hardly. Etienne's, I've got at running back 12 rest of season. I've got RJ Harvey at running back 16. That's the highest he's been all year. Ramondre Stevenson is another riser. He's at running back 24. We'll get into that. Schedule looks good. Kamane Vidal. I wasn't sure what to expect with Vidal, of course, and I don't want to assume that this is going to stick, but on Monday Night Football, it was a 69% snap rate for Vidal compared to 31% for Hampton. He got 14 rushes to Hampton's 13. Way more involved as a route runner, 59% route rate for Vidal compared to 20% for Hampton. So I do have Hampton ranked higher, but I've got Vidal at running back 35, and he's in the same range as some guys that I think are really good stashes. I'm nervous about the offense as a whole, but he's played so well that he's an interesting back to keep around, because if he gets another opportunity, he could be a workhorse, and there's just not that many backs who we've seen can do that, can play all 3 downs. Devin Neal, another big riser. I've got him at running back 30 for the Saints. Rookie running back has looked pretty good, has handled a lot of work. And then Isaiah Pacheco. I'm curious what you think about this. They were loading him up early in the game. They had to go to Kareem Hunt down the stretch, and so Kareem got way more work. But early on, it looked like we were clearly seeing a transition to Pacheco. I've got him at running back 42 in my rest of season rankings. That's just below Chuba Hubbard, Kenneth Gainwell, Zach Charbonnet. All right. Anything stand out to you? Anything you want to talk about, or should we just kind of go through from the top to the bottom?
Let's run through it.
Okay. So it's CMC, Jahmyr Gibbs, Achane ahead of Jonathan Taylor. And honestly, it might be even worse than this for Taylor down the stretch. Schedule's not great. Quarterback play, we'll see.
Yeah.
Bijan Robinson, James Cook. I think we're locked in on James Cook season. I just flipped Rashee Rice for James Cook straight up in a dynasty league where I needed running back. My running back room was really bad. Maybe a bad move. I was hoping to get more for Rice at some point this offseason or whatever, but also I've got a ton of Rice, and he makes me nervous right now. He's not winning routes, and James Cook is winning. This guy's really good.
Rice very well might not be a Chief long term. I don't know if that's bad or good for his fantasy value. I would think it's bad.
Yeah.
But
man, every time I watch Cook, man, I'm just like, this guy's so good. I was watching with a lifelong Vikings fan this weekend, and he's like, he might just be better than Dalvin. I think he's better than Dalvin. I was like, wow, dude, like that means a lot coming from you.
Dalvin.
Yeah.
I'd have to.
This is a guy who watched Dalvin game to game every week, and that, I was watching. I'm like, I feel like Cook is clearly better up the middle, and he's like, yes. And
James, you mean?
Yeah, James Cook. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
And as the game was going on, he's like, shit, man, he just might be better than Dalvin.
Yeah.
Like, I know, he's so good. James Cook at running back 6, just behind Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs running back 7, Bucky Irving running back 8. The roll skill back for Bucky a little bit. That makes you a little bit nervous. Javonte Williams running back 9, Kyron Williams running back 10, Derrick Henry, Travis Etienne, Travion Henderson probably shouldn't be this high.
Yeah, he's a must move down, and
he's a must move down.
He's a must move down, and I
any
think
of these guys could give you 5 points, though.
Not Chase Brown. Chase Brown's a must move up.
Chase Brown had 30 yards this week. He could definitely give you 5 points.
Click the Chase Brown thing. Let's take a look at some other Chase Brown games. Give me put CB back.
I understand the game log has been good. We are going beyond the box score here, Dan.
I know, but are you worried about the role or like the offense or what?
Yeah, I think Travion Henderson is a better player who gives you better like big play upside, and the schedule is better and the offense is better.
Okay.
I'm not low on Brown. I don't think so. I'm fine moving him ahead of him, but I just don't want to act like any of these players in this range are insulated where they can't give you a bad game just like Travion can. I think any of these players can give you bad games. Saquon has given you so many bad games.
Saquon can definitely give you bad games.
And so that's where I'm at. It's like Harvey could give you 2 points. Kenneth Walker can give you 2 points. Breece Hall can give you 2 points. Chase Brown, like in theory, hopefully is insulated with the targets, but he only has 4 targets in 2 of his past 3 games, and his route rate is down. His rushes have gone down in 3 straight games. Like over the past 2 games, he has 27 rushes. Pirine has 20.
He ends the season with 3 games that I like, though.
I don't know. Baltimore's defense has been playing pretty well.
Yeah.
I get it's a good schedule for sure. Like I don't think it's as good as New England's, but it is a good schedule. I like Chase Brown. I don't want to act like
no. I mean, it's
he's going to get 2 touchdowns every week, or you're safe with Chase Brown just because
it's not a safe play for sure. I think Travion though to me scares the hell out of me rest of season
for sure. It makes sense. So yeah, I've got him at 13 behind ETN. And it is totally valid to be nervous about it because most of his work didn't come until the second half of this past game. And these are big games. If they beat the Bills, they're locked in. So maybe it is a game where we see. I mean, if Travion Henderson has a 35% snap rate in this game, that wouldn't surprise me at all. If he has like 8 rush attempts and it's like all Ramondre in the red zone and everything, yeah, I know that wouldn't surprise me at all. It's definitely not safe for Travion. But I also think that the Patriots could average 30 points per game over these next 3 games, and Henderson could be really involved in it. They've got him involved as a receiver in 3 straight games. The coach speak is generally pretty good about Travion. There's a chance that coming out of the bye week, it swings more in his direction. We don't know that, but there's a chance.
I saw a couple of reps though from the Giants game where it's like, this is why he's not on the field. And it's like him blowing a pass protection. And
for sure. But I think there's a chance that like he gets a little bit of spaciousness here with the bye week, that things maybe slow down for him a little bit better. And he plays better down the stretch. To me, it's like Travion has more upside than any of these players. Maybe Harvey, you could say, is similar in terms of upside. The Bears guys have more upside if one of the other 2 were to get hurt or something. But that upside exists for him with Stevenson. To me, it's like Travion in one of the best offenses in the league with great matchups, big play potential, and receiving potential. It's like this guy could outscore basically every running back on the board. Like he could push up into this range. And so that's why he's here. I would love to have Travion on any of my teams is where I'm at with him. But I know that it's scary starting week 20.
Very different read on it.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, like it could go either way. It would not surprise me at all if Ramondre Stevenson just outscores him. So
if Stevenson gets hurt, like I feel what you're saying. He's not hurt. He's playing. He's going to play a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree. Ramondre like had the role clearly in week 13. We brought that up on Beyond the Box Score last week. In the first half, it was like, let me just check it real quick. I think it was
Chase Brown to me. Is everything you just said about Travion, I think is the same about Chase Brown. He's explosive. He's in a good offense. Even RJ Harvey, I would say, is a similar bet in that range.
Yeah, I think we've
seen about Jalen Warren. I feel like he's ranked a little low.
It was pretty much 50-50. Yeah, it was pretty much 50-50 with those guys. That makes me a little bit nervous.
He's so good, though.
He is good, but I mean, 8 carries.
Yeah, that's not great volume. It's fair.
He is good. I like Warren a lot. I actually feel decent about the running back group here.
I know it's so much
better than receiver. in the top 24. So the bottom of this range is Ramondre at 24, Genty at 23,
That's where it gets
Judkins at 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, Judkins, I feel okay about, especially if Cleveland's offense plays better. Like they've got some matchups here where it could be okay.
If Cook is playing quarterback the rest of the season for the Jets, I think Breece Hall's dead for fantasy, personally.
Yeah, I didn't know how far to move him down. Honestly,
It
like
just depends. If Tyrod can play, he'll have a better chance.
yeah, you can move him down below somebody like Ramondre Stevenson, and that's totally fine with
Yeah,
me.
no
That
interest
might
in
be where we've arrived just like in a week or two, you know? If we did this again, he would probably be down here.
It just depends. Like those
It's scary.
those Brady Cook games will be like 125 yards of total offense and 0 to 1 touchdowns.
Yeah. What do you think about Amari and Hampton here? So I said it was only 31% snap rate, but I thought he had a lot of plays where he looked good. And on the year, it's smallish sample size, but like his per touch stuff is all really good in terms of avoided tackles, yards after contact, all that. I've been pretty encouraged by him overall.
I thought he looked really good in his return. Honestly, I was surprised at how healthy he looked. And I'll say this, I have more confidence in him and even Vidal moving forward, because I think the Chargers have gotten to the point where while they were super pass first at the beginning of the year, because they could be, they can't be anymore. All they can really do is these run first game plans, these old school Roman game plans, because they can't pass protect at all with their tackle situation. So game script should be pretty good. Their defense is awesome. I feel okay about it. I don't love it, but I feel okay about it. I mean, it's him and Vidal splitting at this point. I don't think and maybe that was just the first week back, and his role will grow. But this is going to have to be their attempted game plan moving forward. The Chargers, they cannot pass. They can't do anything else.
Yeah. Got a comment in the chat that says Hampton seems low based on the Hendo logic, that I think is a good point to bring up.
Okay.
Just to clarify the Henderson thing. To me, I don't see them similarly at all. The only thing that's similar is the rookies and they're fast.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, it's like the
offensive
great setup.
Offense, the other's in a bad offense.
Yeah, the offensive setup is so much better for the Patriots, and the matchups are so much better. We got on the road against the Chiefs, on the road against the Cowboys and Quinn Williams, and then we've got Houston in Week 17.
That too.
Yeah. So I just want that to be clear. That like Henderson, I'm not just like he's fast, you know, like he's young. He's gonna have a good rookie season at the end here. It's like this offense could be a just fantasy print shop here at the end. So I want as many Patriots as I can get. I want Hunter Henry. I want Kayshon Boutte, you know, like even guys we haven't talked about that much. Like I think any of them are live to have like huge performances down the season here or down the stretch here. Rico Dowdle and the Panthers, we've talked about them. We don't really know what to do with them. So I'm going to leave this range on the screen and then talk through a few of these profiles. People are asking questions about Kenneth Walker. How can he be this high? I've got him at running back 17 behind Harvey, ahead of Hall, ahead of the Bears running backs. I'm fine if you want to move the Bears running backs ahead of the Hall and Walkers. I know this past week was obviously tilting. So here's what I've got. Same thing as the receivers. I've got expected fantasy points per game. Some profiles on these running backs. Travis Etienne, running back 7 in expected fantasy points per game over the past 2 months. That surprised me. It doesn't always feel that way, but I think the role is going to be even better for him going forward potentially. So I think running back 12 is definitely deserved. I think he's locked in for you at running back right now. Saquon Barkley is running back 13 in XFP over the past 2 months, running back 11 over the past month. And so he's interesting to me. We've been relatively low on him. The line, it seems like they could have both tackles back. I don't know how healthy they are, but the matchups are good. And Saquon looked better last night, I thought. So are you feeling any better about Saquon? I know he's kind of bugged you out this year for fantasy.
Yeah, I guess getting Lane back could help. It will help, I should say. I think this is a fair range for him.
Yeah. These guys are similar, I think. Henry, even Kyron, Etienne, Henderson, Saquon, Chase Brown, RJ Harvey are all pretty similar. Okay. So yeah, 13 over the past 2, 11, running back 11 over the past month for Saquon. Quinshon Judkins, running back 18 in XFP over the past 2, and running back 22 in XFP over the past month. That's not bad, you know, for a guy who like doesn't get targets. I would have guessed that he's like running back 30 or something, where he's like kind of the Derrick Henry effect, where he outproduces his expected fantasy points because he's good. So he's like a low end. He's basically right here where I ranked him, running back 18 in XFP over the past 2 months. I do feel better about him than Genty to close things out.
Agreed.
Brees, all to your point, like probably just needs to move down point blank because it could be even worse. And here are the numbers where the quarterback play has been better. Running back 28 in XFP per game over the past 2 months. Running back 27 over the past month. So just moving behind Warren, moving behind Judkins, moving behind Hampton and Stevenson. You could even move behind Genty. The offense is similar, and Genty has like built-in targets.
Right. That's
rough.
fair.
It is rough.
Yeah. Again, not much interest unless they get Tyrod back.
Kenneth Walker. I've pointed out that like his role has been better and better. He's out snapping Charbonnet and stuff, but still, it's not great in terms of the actual equation for fantasy. He's not getting a lot of targets. Running back 26 per game in XFP over the past 2 months. Running back 23 over the past month. So maybe, just move Jaylen Warren ahead of him. Let me get a real quick refresh on the match.
I think that's fair. What's also missing from his game for the first time in his career are just these explosive long touchdowns that we're used to him getting. I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, he's topped out at 71 rushing yards since the last time we saw him with over 80 was week 5.
He hasn't had a 30-yard run all season.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so
actually, I'm sorry, he had a 31-yard run against the Bucks. Besides that, he topped out at 25.
Montre Stevenson might just outscore him, man.
Yeah,
Bills,
I think he will.
Ravens, Jets.
I think he will.
Okay, Woody Marks we haven't talked about yet. I've got him running back 29 behind Aaron Jones and David Montgomery. Woody Marks is running back 14 in expected fantasy points per game over the past 2 months. And that's without hardly any targets. It's been frustrating me that he hasn't been able to get targets. Coming off of 28 touches against the Chiefs and has a couple easier matchups the next couple of weeks against the Cardinals and the Raiders. Are you feeling any sort of confidence in Woody Marks in your lineup these next couple of weeks?
Health situation. If he's healthy, yes, I am feeling confidence in Woody Marks. To put him into that, I'd probably drop Walker, but put him into that range where Walker is.
So you would prefer to start Woody over Walker, is what you're saying?
I would prefer to start Woody over Walker personally.
Interesting. Okay. Is he ahead of Genty?
Yeah, Genty has the production from the receiving, which helps. But yeah, probably. I don't know about that though. Genty has done enough in the has scored enough touchdowns. I don't know if I can put him there, but it's a similar range, right? We're picking, we're grasping at straws as far as who's ranking, and I like the schedule a little bit better.
Yeah, man. What do you like?
Well, Genty against the Giants,
Philly. Yeah, if you survived a week 17 with 2 points per game from Genty,
right.
He's got Philly the Eagles on the road and then the Texans on the road.
Yeah, that's going nowhere.
And he's averaging 29 rushing yards per game over the past month.
And it might be Pickett, which again, Geno's been horrible, but Pickett could be worse.
Yeah. Okay, so Woody, I'm fine moving Woody up.
You got to move Devin Neal up, right?
Feel great about it. Neal, yeah, I guess. He's similar, right? I think he's looked good, but it bothers me that there was only one target this past week, and the targets have gone 7-3-1. Yeah. I want those targets to be locked in, but Kellen Moore has not really been somebody who uses the running back that much in the passing game. That was something I was a little nervous about with Kamara this year. And the other thing is that Shuck has been totally fine, taking off and just running, right? So if he doesn't have those targets, then he's pretty similar to Woody in a worse offense.
Fair.
And not quite as many rushes, but 14 runs in week 13, 19 runs this past week. The other things I don't know. I mean, he did get a touchdown this past week, but I don't know how likely he is to be getting touchdowns any given week. Probably the least likely among starting running backs, if I had to guess, just because they've got a bunch of different things they might do in the red zone. But the matchups set up pretty well. Right. I think week 17 against the Titans, the Titans have actually played decent against the run. Week 15 against the Panthers, week 16 against the Jets. So I'm fine with it. I just don't think there's very much upside, but I'm totally fine moving him up into this
more
range.
Of a floor type play. I just feel more confident. I'll just say this, as far as him versus a Walker type player goes, if Walker was still breaking off explosive runs, I could feel confident in him over Neal. If he's not, I know Neal's going to get more volume. I know Neal's going to get the red zone work. So what am I getting out of Walker that I'm not getting out of Neal?
Well, his offense, I think, is going to be implied for almost like double the points on any
But
given
he
week.
doesn't score any of the touchdowns.
Well, I mean, he has
Walker?
Yeah, at times. Like I know he didn't last week, and I know it's been a frustrating year for him overall. But like, I think he could
How many
score.
scores does he have on the year?
I don't know, man. 4
Yeah.
or something. I can look it up if you want.
Just curious.
It's just like Devin Neal's not giving you explosive plays.
No. He's not giving explosive plays. Neither are giving explosive plays. Just
But
one I
Walker
know-
could. Walker's
Okay.
we've seen him do it, like Neal runs like a 4.5 or whatever. Like he was barely giving you explosive plays at Kansas. Walker has 4 touchdowns on the year.
Yeah.
It's just I know it has been frustrating for Walker, but if you're comparing the two when like asking what the difference is, it's the one is like is a really talented player, drafted high, has shown
He's
us
certainly a talent.
I'm not a real talent, and he's in a really good offense.
He's a much better football player, but like the offense, the really good offense argument for me, at least, like centers around scoring touchdowns. Ultimately, in the end, with fantasy, with these backs down the stretch for winning these playoff matchups for us, is going to be who's catching balls, who's scoring touchdowns, and I just don't. I guess I don't see him coming from Walker really.
Yeah, I know they're third in implied points this week, and I know
Yeah.
that Walker hasn't scored the touchdown. But to me, touchdowns are incredibly unpredictable.
They are.
So the fact, like looking what has happened, doesn't matter that much to me, and unless you're looking at like what has happened in terms of opportunity, who has been on the field in the red zone,
Right.
And
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Well, that's been him. Like since the bye week, it's been him as much as Charbonnet.
Yeah. With Neal though, it's going to be every time.
Not even necessarily. Like they can go to Taysom Hill and stuff like that. Like
Yeah,
it
that's
can
fair.
be
We can get
Shuck.
to True. Shuck
all
stole a couple. Yeah, that's fair. That's a good argument.
Bam Knight. I want to talk about Bam Knight because I've been curious about Trey Benson, but at this point, it seems like he might not even play. And so is Bam Knight the forgotten league winner? It was a bad game against the Rams, predictably. You're not going to want to start Bam Knight on the road against the Texans. But if he's just starting, which I think I'm pretty sure that if Benson doesn't get activated this week, he's done, right?
Yeah.
Bam Knight is running back 16 in expected fantasy points per game over the past 2 months. 13.4 expected fantasy points per game over the past 2 months for Knight. Jonathan Taylor's number over the past 2 months is 14.6. So like it's honestly been a pretty good roll. And I mean 6 targets this past week. He has multiple targets in every game since week 6. Like I know it's not super exciting. And there have been, he 3 weeks ago, he had 10 rushes for 12 yards. There have been bad games, but when in the red zone, he is the running back. He is the guy. And in week 16 and 17, I feel like these are games that could be competitive, and Knight actually might matter. So I wanted to bring him up. He's the last guy I had on my list here. Where would you slide him in among the running backs here? I think he basically belongs in the same range as somebody like Tyrone Tracy or something like that. Chris Rodriguez.
Yeah, sure. That's fair for me. I mean, the upside is this is surprisingly one of the healthiest fantasy offenses. It really is. The Cardinals. They put up a ton of stats. They put up a ton of yards. They score. Their volume is great, and their defense stinks. On the negative side, DeMarcado could be back in the mix soon. Could that eat into Bam Knight's role in the red zone? Could that eat into his receiving role overall? Possibly, probably, right? So it's a fair range. I'd probably still be more confident in him over a lot of the players like in that range just because of the role for now. But it just depends what you're looking for. Like with a player like Corum, right? Just looking at him in the rankings, he has no role that we can count on really, other than I guess definitely more of a role than he had. And we've heard McVay say, look, down the stretch, we're going to kind of ease things in for Kyron so we have him healthy for the playoffs. But you're betting on him being in a great offense and them running the ball and his talent, Corum. Versus a player like Knight where you have more of a defined role. So I think it's fair to put him in that range. There's a lot of different players in this range from a role standpoint.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think you can really use him this week, and Benson might be back. So I'm going to drop him. I'm going to put him behind Isaiah Pacheco and Chuba Hubbard and Kenneth Gainwell.
You can't use him in that matchup now.
No. I think you can use Chris Rodriguez, right? Is that Giants this week? Am I remembering that right?
It's the best matchup that you can get from a defense standpoint.
The usage checked out for him. They just got embarrassed. It was one of the worst games all year for a team in terms of catchable air yards. They couldn't do anything, but Rodriguez is one of the few pieces of the offense that's working. And so I would expect him to get a lot of looks this week. And if they don't get shut out, then hopefully it'll be better than the 5 points you got.
Yeah. No role in the passing game, though, so obviously we can't get too excited.
Oh. Alrighty. Anything else stand out here that you want to talk about at running back, or like move Daniel or Aaron Jones down or anything like that? Tyron Tracy feel any type of way coming out of the bye?
No strong way. He doesn't have a defined red zone role.
Jordan Mason, you felt pretty good looking at the film. Would he move ahead of Corum or Vidal or any of these players? Okay.
No.
We nailed it. Kenneth Gainwell, the chat's asking about, had basically a better role than Jaylen Warren, like same amount of snaps and more routes and targets. So if you want to move Gainwell up, I see these guys pretty similar. Like from Breece Hall on,
right?
All these players, Rico Dowdle, Hampton, Aaron Jones, David Montgomery, Kareem Hunt, all these players are in some kind of a share with another running back. They're splitting the work. So you can, I think a lot of them you can plug in as a flex, but it's they're all pretty similar. Gainwell's played well. I'm fine moving him up if you want to. All right, let's dig into the waiver wire. Let's keep an eye on the chat as we've got some starred questions here. Thanks, Emma.
Okay.
Let's close this thing out. I'm going to pull up the waiver wire. Dan, how'd your fantasy season close out here? How you feeling going into the playoffs?
So pretty damn strong. There's 3 leagues I focus on the most. My home league, this auction league with some friends from Long Island that I'm in. That's my massive buy-in's $1,500. So it's big. I'm first in that one, first in points, 1 point by 350 points, and first place with a bye. But it's a 14-team league, 2 quarterbacks, half point for or super flex, half point for completion, and I just lost Daniel Jones for the year. So I am going to have to probably dump my budget on Rivers and hope that nobody else does the same. I might go Pickett. So I could be pretty much screwed there if I don't have a quarterback starting. So I don't feel great about that one. Home league, 3 seed or 4 seed, I should say, 3rd in points. So that's okay. End of the year. And the other important league was a similar finish. I think it's 4 seed, 3rd in points. So okay in those leagues. Could have been a little bit better.
The Rivers stuff is so awesome, man.
The what stuff?
The Rivers stuff.
Rivers,
I thought we had peaked with like Joe Flacco and Tyrod Taylor and Jacoby Brissett. Nope. Wow. Okay. So
Austin
waiver
Lim,
wire.
by the way, before we do this, Austin Lim says, could we do a listener league next season, a BTB listener league? I love that idea. If we do, Jacob, we have to make it so different than all the other leagues, like our settings wise. Like I want to make it fun and different, like points for first down, that type of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Love that idea. That would be fun. Okay.
And of course, auction.
Quarterback, we've got some options on the waiver wire this week. I think CJ Stroud has played better. He's available in 42% of leagues, and he has the Arizona Cardinals. We've got Aaron Rodgers, looked great. Available in 59% of leagues, has the Dolphins. You could go Mariota against the Giants if need be, if those other guys aren't available. Bryce Young against the Saints. JJ McCarthy against the Cowboys. Shuck against the Panthers. So, I mean, even Shedeur Sanders against the Bears. Like a lot of the streamers this week have decent matchups. Does anybody stand out to you? How do you think you would order those guys?
Mariota probably has the most upside to me, just against a really bad defense, the Giants defense. And he runs.
Mm-hmm.
Stroud for sure in that mix. I actually forgot we mentioned Stroud in there.
Mm-hmm.
The good players definitely first. Stroud, Mariota. As far as the Shuck, Bryce Young, what was it? What else was in there?
Shedeur Sanders, JJ McCarthy.
Probably JJM first. The rest are interchangeable to me.
All right. I'm looking at the implied totals from Vegas this week. We've got 21.5 points for the Carolina Panthers and Bryce Young, favored by 2.5 against the Saints. The over-under is only 40.5 points.
Yeah.
So I feel like this game could have some sneaky back and forth appeal. But also, I think the Panthers side of it just kind of, they really are going to want to run the ball, right? And so that kind of can slow the game down. Would you lean towards Bryce as the favorite, or would you prefer Shuck?
I think I prefer Shuck, honestly. Runs, better chance for rushing touchdowns. I hope you don't have to play either.
Superflex and stuff like that. So Mariota has a 22.5 point implied total as 2.5 point underdogs against the Giants in a game with a 47.5 point over under. That's one of the highest of the week. Could get a shootout between two really bad defenses here and two quarterbacks who can be really aggressive. I'm curious where he would land. You said upside. I think he might have the most upside among the streamer quarterbacks this week. The Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers are implied for 23 points, so that's almost identical. The over-under is much lower. Steelers against the Dolphins, 42.5 points, and Rodgers not running, Where's Houston? They're normally pretty low. They're high. Wow, 26 points for the Texans against the Cardinals. The Vikings, dude.
Cardinals games just always score. There's always scoring in Cardinals games.
Earlier, you were talking about the Cardinals offense, and I was like wondering where they're at. They're at 16.5 implied points this week. And I'm like, that's so low. Like, I know the Michael Wilson stuff has been good, but that's so low. And I'm like, but this week it's actually not even relatively that low. Like, there are 5 teams with a lower number this week. And normally 16.5 could be like the lowest of any team. But we've got Raiders, Jets, Colts, Titans, and Browns all down there. With really, really low implied totals. So keep that in mind with Shedeur. I know it was really good last week. 16.5 points for them against the Bears. And that game has the second lowest over-under on the week, the Bears and the Browns. Okay, J.J. McCarthy's our last one here. Minnesota implied for 20.5 points against the Cowboys. 47.5 point over-under in that one. So that's pretty high. So if you're looking for upside, I think McCarthy is similar to Mariota, but slightly below him. With Stroud just being the clear top option. And then Rodgers, I think, is probably safer from a median projection standpoint than Mariota and JJ McCarthy, but I think does have less upside than those two. If you're just like in a neutral situation, like just feeling pretty similar, like in terms of your outlook compared to your opponent's outlook, are you going with Rodgers against the Dolphins, or are you swinging on somebody like Mariota?
Rodgers against the Dolphins for sure.
Okay. And so we've got Stroud as a top streamer, and then Rodgers, unless you really need to swing on upside, in which case it would be Mariota or JJ McCarthy, Tyler Shuck, and Bryce Young making up the next tier, and Shedeur last. You fine with that?
Yeah.
Shedeur against the Bears.
Yeah, I know. It's such a bad match. It's just, I think that game is just going to be too run heavy. So.
Okay.
I don't want to make too much of the beating up on the Titans pass defense.
Okay, that's quarterback. Honestly,
bad waiver week. Honestly,
I don't know. I think there's some pretty good options there.
Yeah.
Do you mean at other positions?
I just mean across the board, running back and receiver.
I even think you could go with Cam Ward against the Niners if you really have to. Okay, let's look at running back. Have you been able to find anything in the chat that's been interesting for Waiver Wire or anything?
Not Waiver Wire wise. People are debating start sits.
At running back, Blake Corum stands out. He's available in 44% of leagues.
If he's available, snatch him up.
Pacheco maybe is available. He's 33% available. 67% roster, 33% available on CBS. Check and see if you can find Chris Rodriguez. Same thing, 28%. Probably not, but I don't know what kind of leagues you're in. Tajay Spears is 42% out, but Corum ahead of him. Singletary is interesting to me. 57% available and maybe gets a roll out of the bye. In this past game, man, there were times where it was like Singletary every play for a whole drive, it felt like. And so I think it's reasonable that they feel just like he's the player they have the most confidence in keeping the offense on track. and so they go to him more than we expect.
Possible. They have two good matchups too, Raiders and Commanders. I don't hate it.
I'm pretty sure Achane is going to be fine. That's how I've been ranking it. But Jalen Wright is worth picking up.
It's a good speculative stash. He'll be the most expensive, probably waiver wire buy this week.
Right. I would be putting in moderately aggressive claims on him. Probably not going to get him is kind of my assumption. And I think Singletary is a similar type of bet in terms of the speculation type of ad that you can get for like $1 if you don't get him. I feel better about Wright and the Dolphins. Like
just a more upside, yeah.
The Dolphins' run game has really been working well.
Unreal. Brewer's been all pro at center. It's crazy watching him play. He's moving people.
Is Ryan Flournoy going to be a pickup if CeeDee Lamb is out?
Yeah.
Yes, he is. He's played so well in year 2. So I showed earlier the Brian Thomas Jr. and all the year 2 receivers per route data. If you drop the minimum from 300 rounds to 150, he's up there above Rome Odunze, Ryan Flournoy, 26-year-old rookie for the Cowboys, or second-year receiver for the Cowboys. He's been really productive, and he's a super explosive athlete. I think he was really raw coming in, but he's made big strides this second season. Okay, let's finish up running back here. Yeah, Jalen Wright, and then pretty much just stashes.
Yeah,
we hit on the stashes every week. Nothing has really changed there. Samaj Pirine, I guess if you are in a deep league, he's available in a lot of leagues still, and he is getting work and has actually run pretty well. But hopefully you don't have to go there. Dylan Sampson is a similar type of play where they wanted to get him some work. I could see him having some explosive plays against the Bears if you're in a very deep league. Another very deep league name is Rasheen Ali for the Ravens. Keaton Mitchell pulled up, kind of limp on his long run. The MRA came back all right. We'll see if he plays. They've got the Bengals this week, and even if he doesn't play, or even if he does play, Ali's been in that pass down role, the Justice Hill role. They've both been playing. I think that's all I got at running back.
Yeah, it's pretty ugly.
Corum and Spears for shallower leagues.
Yeah, if you're lucky enough to get a Corum for sure, would be top for me.
Top guys. All right. Wide receiver. We already brought up Flournoy. It sounds like Lamb is trending in the right direction. He's a good player to have anyway. I would roster him ahead of Tez Johnson.
Yeah, for sure. Tez is done, unfortunately for us.
Kayshon Boutte is available in 34% of leagues. Could have a strong finish here. Maybe kind of got forgotten about, got dropped with the Patriots on bye in some shallow leagues, so look out for him. Jaden Reed available in 50% of leagues. I would rather have these guys than Adonai Mitchell, who's also available in 50% of leagues. Not feeling great about that offensive tired's not there. Luther Burden is available in 71% of leagues. That is stunning. I would definitely check and see if you can find Luther Burden on your waiver wire. How's that possible?
Yeah, I don't know.
Devon Vele, 73% of leagues. I'm going to put him. He's in the same range as Boutte to me, and Reed. I think he has the least upside of that group, but somebody you might be able to trust to just get you 8 points or whatever each week. Brought up Mechie. He's my worst version of that, if it is this undrafted quarterback, he's probably going to Mechie and Mason Taylor a lot. Hopefully you don't have to join him in going there. What'd you think of the Isaac Tesla game?
Obviously, it was deflated by Amon-Ra St. Brown playing. That's good for the Lions, though.
Got a touchdown, though. Does his thing.
Catch his touchdown, yeah. Can't trust him at all.
Jalen Coker or Vele Jaden Reed?
Vele probably first. Reed, Coker in that order.
All right. Jalen Coker available in 92% of leagues.
Just no confidence in the volume for really anyone there besides Vele.
In deep leagues, I continue to think Malik Washington's an okay floor play. Somebody like Calvin Austin gives you some upside, maybe. These guys are available in pretty much most leagues. Pat Bryant is available in 94% of CBS leagues. That is a mistake, in my opinion. I do slightly prefer him to Jalen Coker. I just think the Panthers are going to try to run so much.
Yeah.
Dude, Jalen Noel finally ran more routes than Christian Kirk. Jack Besh, 97% available, is a player who is on the field more, and we finally saw some targets go his way. He would be behind everyone behind Coker, behind Flournoy, even, but not a bad player for deep PPR leagues to be aware of.
Deep leagues for these players, I think.
Round 2 rookie, though. At the end of the year, this is the time. If ever, this is the time. And we saw some encouraging signs last week. Thought he played pretty well. Led the team in targets.
Fair.
Kyle Williams, man. Stud. Probably not going to matter this year, but I love this guy. Okay. I think that's pretty much it at wide receiver. Let us know if there's anybody you're considering that we didn't get to. And we'll keep an eye on the chat. Let's look at tight ends. At tight end, Colson Loveland, 47% available. He's a stud, and he keeps scoring, even though the role isn't super dependable. There's not much a tight end that is.
Right.
Theo Johnson, 43% available. Similar type of play that I just don't have as much confidence in the player, but I think he's going to get a handful of looks each week, has some big play ability. He's got to catch the ball, but he's an all right dart throw at tight end. TJ Hawkinson, if you want to sleep a little bit better at night, I guess, he's more likely to get you your 5, 6, 7 points. He's got the Cowboys this week. He's available in half of leagues. I don't know if there's much upside at all. Mason Taylor is probably a similar type of play that's more available. Colby Parkinson continues to be somebody who I go to in deep leagues. He's 90% available for the Rams. Potential shootout against the Lions this week. Isaiah Likely gets the Bengals, They've just been...
It's a dart throw.
They've been given so many points to the tight end position this year.
Right. Good matchup. Good spot.
Pat Freiermuth with Washington banged up for Pittsburgh, stepped into a larger role. I think he had like a 63% route rate, which is good enough. So it was him playing ahead of Jonnu. He's available 90% of leagues, gets the Dolphins this week. Good player. In deep leagues, Gunnar Helm, the role's not really there, but gets the Niners. I wish it was Ben Sinnott time, but he really did not see any increase in role. They played somebody named Yankoff ahead of him. So do with that what you will. You do anything with that, Dan?
No, definitely not.
All right. There you go. Let us know if you have any questions, but that's what we're looking at. Waiver wire. I think Freiermuth is an interesting player. If you are in leagues where, Theo Johnson's not available and stuff like that, he's probably who you look for.
I think most people listening to our podcast, a lot of these players are not as available as they seem to be in the CBS league. So I don't mind that if you're really desperate, but you should for only 12 start a week in most leagues if you're not 14, 16 teams. So you should be able to get some of these other players.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to our listener questions, comments. Starting with a comment from Stevie B. I'll smash like if you watch the Rocky movies, Dan. You don't watch Rocky? You just not?
Rocky movies are so far down my list of things that I need to watch.
Never seen them?
Never seen the Rocky movies. I'll watch Terminator before I watch Rocky, first of all.
You never seen Terminator?
Never seen Terminator. I've never seen basically any movie except for if you go to IMDb's top 50 or 100, Let me look at it real quick, and I'll tell you the type of movies I've seen. I've seen like Shawshank Redemption. I've seen The Godfather. I've seen The Dark Knight. I've seen 12 Angry Men. I've seen Pulp Fiction, Inception, those types of movies. Fight Club. Like, I like those types of movies. Interstellar, which I didn't think was that good, but is ranked high. The Matrix is amazing. So I'm looking 7. Like Silence of the Lambs, like those types of movies, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That's what I'm into. Something like Rocky, I have little to no interest in. I just don't. Like, first of all, I'm not an action movie guy. I want to start by saying that. Okay. Action doesn't do it for me. And I don't even know if Rocky's considered action. I think it's more of just like American, like good sports story, feel good sports story.
It's like a drama.
Yeah. Reservoir Dogs. That's one I've seen. I've seen all of the Tarantinos. Like, those are amazing to me.
Having a hard time with this one, man.
Yeah, I know. It's a bad look. I don't do movies. I don't do movies well. I've seen like every great TV show in the history of TV shows. Just, no.
We got Adam Azer sent us an email from a listener that they want us to go beyond the box office.
Yeah.
This summer.
Me
and Dan dig into some movie recommendations from Adam in the chat. I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, Adam referenced the movie on the Monday episode that I didn't know because I'm 31 years old, so some of this stuff flies over my head. And so I think that's a fun idea for us to dig into some film analysis.
Yeah, the idea was like Adam gives us a movie that's amazing that Jacob and I just weirdly haven't seen, which is a lot of movies. And then we review it on the podcast and give our takes on it. So I think it's actually a good one.
Okay, some more serious questions here.
Somebody asked in the chat a non-serious question, but this we can actually answer from Albert. What's a good modern funny show? I think I'll suggest the one I just suggested to Jacob, which he's on season 6 of right now, which is Community.
And it's not modern at all.
It's not modern?
I mean, it's like from our lifetime, but it's also like 50 years old.
All right. Modern now? I don't know.
Okay. This question is about Mike Wilson. Nobody knows what to do with Michael Wilson. Given his success with Brissett, is Marvin Harrison Jr. a must start when he's back? We landed on Michael Wilson at wide receiver 23 in these rankings, just behind Emeka Egbuka, Stephon Diggs, Cortland Sutton. Dan would push him even higher, and I think that's valid. If MHJ wasn't coming back, I know this isn't the question, but just to recap for anybody who was asleep earlier or whatever, it's been a long podcast. I would put Mike Wilson just behind Nico Collins and AJ Brown. If I knew rest of season he's locked into the role he's playing. So is MHJ a must start then? Like if he gets that kind of role, would he be that high? In the one game that we saw them both play since the Mike Wilson breakout, it was a lot more MHJ. I think that it could be something similar. The team is invested in Marvin Harrison Jr. and his success. And so I could see them wanting him to have a strong finish to what has mostly been a lost season for the Cardinals here. In his second season as a pro, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he just out targets Michael Wilson. But Dan really twisted my arm here, and so I put MHJ below Michael Wilson at wide receiver 31 rest of the season. So that's the same range as like Luther Burden, Juwan Jennings. Must start, probably not, but not many of these players do you feel that good about as like must start. To me, must start kind of ends after like Chris Olave, Zay Flowers, Jameson Williams, and DK Metcalf. I guess Jacoby Myers could fit into that if you want safety. But all these players I don't really feel like are must starts. And so Marvin Harrison Jr. is banging on that door. I see him like pretty similar to somebody like Christian Watson rest of the season. Why is Kamani Vidal a riser? Do you have any Vidal thoughts? I just feel like he's played awesome, and the team is continuing to give him work.
He's awesome. The team continues to give him work, as we saw last night, and the team has to move their offense through him and Hampton. They have no option with the way they're set up at tackle.
Yeah, 69% snap rate on Monday Night Football. Yeah. Had more carries than Hampton. I think the rookie's going to keep taking more, but they gave him the start. They gave Vidal the start, and he was involved in the receiving game. He had like tripled the amount of routes that Hampton ran in that game. Harbaugh loves him. It seems like it's another one of these Harbaugh love stories, and I'm inclined to believe him. He's looked so good this year. Would you start Diggs or Booty over Jettis? Yeah, I mean, I'll send my rankings out after this podcast for week 15, and I know Diggs will be ahead of him. Booty might be. This week, like, you got the Cowboys. You hope that it can be a shootout. or something like that. But I also do think that a lot of the zone coverage and stuff, we might have JJ McCarthy having a tough time finding his way to Jefferson, Yeah, I think you probably got to start him over Booty, but
I'm starting Jefferson over Booty, but Diggs over Jefferson.
I get it. What are some wide receivers you would put next to C-Rod, Chris Rodriguez? So let's think about it. Similar types of receivers. The first one that jumps out to me is Wan'Dale Robinson.
Mhm.
Let me show you my rest of season wide receiver rankings, and you can kind of. That's not it. Here we go. Chris Rodriguez, I think, is locked into 5 or more points each week. He doesn't have a receiving role, and the offense is not that good. So I don't know if there's much upside. So it's probably something like Devon Vele, Wan'Dale. I think he's a little bit safer than guys like Quentin Johnston, Romeo Dobbs, who could give you, on any given week are probably only giving you 0 to 5 touches. Chris Rodriguez could touch the ball 10 to 20 times. And if things go well for the offense, which it could in some of these matchups, then it could actually be an upside type of a game. I think this range right here, the low end wide receiver 3 range.
That's fair.
Drop a Emeka Egbuka for Mike Evans. Would it surprise you at all if Mike Evans comes back and outscores him?
Yeah, I would take Evans over Egbuka rest of the season.
Okay, that's not where I landed. But if I knew Evans was good, no hamstring pop-ups, no problems.
I'm assuming health.
Then sure. He could be there. He was seeing a lot of volume early on in the season, was just coming close on some misses with Baker. The Emeka Egbuka experience lately, that was kind of happening early on. It's been questionable accuracy, honestly, kind of all year for Baker. So I don't feel a ton of confidence in Evans, really. But if you want to trust it over the rookie, I get it. It's been really annoying lately. I wouldn't drop Egbuka, honestly. I would much rather have him. Drop Bam Knight for Ramondre Stevenson. Other running backs are Jahmyr Gibbs, Aaron Jones, and Bucky Irving. Yes,
for sure.
I feel really good about Ramondre. I think it's a similar type of outlook to Bam, but the team is better. Trevor Lawrence, Tua, or Darnold? Please, boys. We didn't really talk about quarterback today, and I don't know what the question's actually in reference to. But it is in all caps, and they said please. So I guess we have to acknowledge it. Do you have any thoughts, Dan? T-Law? Darnold? Not Tua?
T-Law.
My answer is not
T-Law.
Tua.
Yeah, T-Law for me.
T-Law or Darnold?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Let's recap on the Jags and their matchups, because we talked about them a lot today. They've got the Jets. So this week I feel really good about all the Jags, but then they're on the road against the Broncos. They're on the road against the Colts, which I think will probably be a game where they run a lot. Are you confident starting Lawrence or any Jaguars against the Broncos on the road? Not, if you have to. Like, are
confident, but I am confident in that pass game. So I don't know.
So
I just
let's go Myers, Strange, and ETN. They feel like the safest guys. Are you still kind of sliding them in that game? You're not shying away from it?
I'm definitely not benching ETN or Myers.
Yeah. And so like week 16, Darnold has the Rams, which we saw kind of stymie him. They've got a scary pass rush. Do you think you see them pretty similarly, right? Like the worst matchup for Lawrence is like still pretty similar to Darnold? Agreed.
Yeah. That's how I see it. For sure.
Jaquan says, I'm down for a BTBS listener league. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. We'll get that set up in the offseason for sure.
Yeah. Superflex, half point. Yeah, let's go points for first down. These are his recommendations. Yeah. Yes, sir. I like that. Can you rank Montgomery, C-Rod, Tracy, and Corum? Hell yeah, we can. We just did it. It's Montgomery is my preference. Do you have any thoughts on that group, Dan?
Yeah, Montgomery if I had to choose, but if it's in order, probably Montgomery, Corum, Tracy, C-Rod. Or Montgomery Corum C-Rod Tracy.
All right. That's from the Giants Insider. If both Evans and London are in this week, who you want rest of season? And would you bench Pickens over any of them?
No to benching Pickens over any of them. Maybe not. No, I'd have to look at the matchups each game to see. Rest of season.
It's London. We already did this.
Yeah.
If London is in, I would have London over him. Rest of season.
Yeah. Okay.
It could be better with Tampa Bay. I feel better about Baker than Kirk Cousins in terms of what I think he can be.
Right.
But it hasn't been that much better. And there's really no target competition. If London is in, man, we've seen him just be 35% of the targets, truly top 5 type of volume for him. Evans, it's a little bit shakier.
True.
There's a lot of mouths to feed there. All right, y'all. Thanks for being here. Long show. Good luck to everybody in week 15. Again, let us know. I'm curious how everybody's shaping up. If you made the playoffs or not. I'm feeling good heading into week 15. Got a few bye weeks, so that's obviously really nice. And the ones where I'm in, I feel pretty good about. Dan, you said you had a pretty good season. Love to hear that. Do you have anything else for the people before we head out, Dan?
Just thank you so much for joining us, obviously, throughout this whole season. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. We have a lot of listens, not a lot of likes on this show. A lot of viewers, I should say, not a lot of likes. We need that like button hit. Please subscribe and rate on iTunes or Spotify. That's really important for us as well. Those are the 2 things. Just like these videos, leave comments, subscribe and rate on iTunes and Spotify. Those are 3 things you can do for us. Maybe take you a combination of 30 seconds, and they really help us grow the show. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you tomorrow.